Chapter 1. Aries. There are 4 states of consciousness that are possible for man: sleep, vigilant consciousness, self-consciousness, and objective consciousness. Imagine for a moment, dear reader, a house with 4 floors. The poor intellectual animal, mistakenly called man, normally lives on the 2 lower floors, but never in life does he use the 2 superior floors. The intellectual animal divides his painful and miserable life between run-of-the-mill sleep and the improperly called vigil state, which unfortunately is another form of sleep. While the physical body sleeps in bed, the ego, enveloped in its lunar bodies, goes around with the consciousness asleep like a somnambulist, moving freely in the molecular region. In the molecular region, the ego projects dreams and lives in them. No logic, continuity, causes, or effects whatsoever exist in its dreams. All psychic functions work without direction whatsoever, and subjective images, incoherent, vague, imprecise scenes, etc., appear and disappear. When the ego, enveloped in its lunar bodies, returns to the physical body, then follows the second state of consciousness, called vigil state, which is, after all, nothing else but another form of sleep. When the ego returns to its physical body, the dreams continue in the interior. The so-called vigil state is really dreaming while awake. When the sun rises, the stars are hidden, but they do not cease to exist. This is how dreams are in the vigil state. They continue secretly, they do not cease to exist. This means that the intellectual animal, mistakenly called man, only lives in the world of dreams. Justly did the poet say that life is a dream. The rational animal drives cars dreaming. He works in the factory, in the office, in the farm, etc., dreaming. He falls in love dreaming. He marries dreaming. Rarely, very rarely in life is he awake. He lives in a world of dreams and firmly believes that he is awake. The 4 Gospels demand awakening, but unfortunately, they do not say how to awaken. Before all else, it is necessary to comprehend that one is asleep. It is only when someone fully realizes that he is asleep that he really enters the path of awakening. Whoever manages to awaken then becomes self-conscious, acquires consciousness of himself. The most serious error of many ignorant pseudo-esoterists and pseudo-occultists is that of presuming having self-consciousness, and to believe, moreover, that everyone is awake, that all people possess self-consciousness. If we want to arrive at the awakening of consciousness, at self-consciousness, we have to work with the consciousness here and now. It is precisely here in this physical world where we should work to awaken consciousness. Whoever awakens here awakens everywhere in all the dimensions of the universe. The human organism is a living zodiac, and in each of its 12 constellations, the consciousness sleeps profoundly. It is urgent to awaken consciousness in each of the 12 parts of the human organism, and that is the purpose of the zodiacal exercises. Aries governs the head, Taurus the throat, Gemini the arms, legs, and lungs, Cancer the thymus gland, Leo the heart, Virgo, the abdomen, the intestines, Libra, the kidneys, Scorpio, the sexual organs, Sagittarius, the major femoral arteries, Capricorn, the knees, Aquarius, the calves, the feet. It is really lamentable that this living zodiac of man, the microcosm, sleeps so profoundly. On the basis of tremendous super efforts, it becomes indispensable to achieve the awakening of consciousness in each of our 12 zodiacal signs. Light and consciousness are 2 phenomena of a same thing. To a lesser degree of consciousness corresponds a lesser degree of light. To a greater degree of consciousness, a greater degree of light. We need to awaken consciousness in order to cause each of the 12 parts of our own microcosmic zodiac to shine and sparkle. Our entire zodiac should become light and splendor. The work with our own zodiac begins precisely with Aries. The disciple should sit in a comfortable armchair with the mind still and in silence, empty of all kinds of thoughts. The devotee should close his eyes in order that nothing of the world distract him. Imagine that the very pure light of Aries floods the cerebrum. He should remain in that state of meditation all the time he wants, and then he will sing the powerful mantra Aum by opening the mouth properly with the A, rounding it with the U, and closing it with the holy M. The powerful mantra Aum is in itself a terribly divine creation because it attracts the forces of the very beloved Father, of the very adored Son, and of the very wise Holy Spirit. The vowel A attracts the forces of the Father. The vowel U attracts the forces of the Son. The vowel M attracts the forces of the Holy Spirit. Aum is a powerful logoic mantram. The devotee should sing this powerful mantram 4 times during this exercise of Aries, and then, standing up toward the east, he will extend his right arm forward, moving his head forward 7 times, 7 times backwards, turning it 7 times towards the right, turning it 7 times towards the left, with the intention that the light of Aries will work within the cerebrum, awakening the pineal and pituitary glands, which permit us the perception of the superior dimensions of space. It is urgent for the light of Aries to develop within our cerebrum, awakening our consciousness, developing the secret powers contained in the pituitary and pineal glands. Aries is the symbol of Ra, Rama, the Lamb. By properly singing the powerful mantram Ra, it causes the spinal fires and the 7 magnetic centers of the dorsal spine to vibrate. Aries is a zodiacal sign of fire. It possesses a formidable energy, and man, the microcosm, captures it in accordance with his manner of thinking, feeling, and acting. Hitler, who was a native of Aries, utilized this type of energy in a destructive manner. Nonetheless, we should recognize that in the beginning, before committing the craziness of launching humanity to the Second World War, he utilized the energy of Aries in a constructive manner, elevating the level of living of the German people. Through direct experience, we have been able to verify that the natives of Aries quarrel frequently with their spouse. The natives of Aries have a marked tendency to argue. They are very quarrelsome by nature. The natives of Aries feel capable of embarking on great enterprises and carrying them to a good conclusion. There exists in the natives of Aries the serious defect of wanting to always utilize willpower in an egotistical manner, Hitler style, in an antisocial and destructive manner. The natives of Aries like independent living, but many of them prefer the military, and in the latter there is no independence. Pride, self-confidence, and ambition, and a truly crazy courage prevail in the character of the natives of Aries. The metal of Aries is iron, the stone ruby, the color red, the element fire. Marriage with people of Libra is favorable to the natives of Aries because fire and air comprehend each other very well. If the natives of Aries want to be happy in marriage, they should put an end to the defect of anger. Chapter 2. Taurus. Taurus, being the zodiacal sign that governs the creative larynx, that marvelous uterus where the word, the verb, is gestated. It is convenient that in this lesson we comprehend in a general manner the words of John when he said, "In the beginning was the Verb, and the Verb was with God, and the Verb was God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made." There are 7 orders of worlds, 7 cosmos that were created with the power of the verb, with music, with sound. The first order of worlds is submerged within the uncreated light of the Absolute. The second order of worlds is constituted by all the worlds of infinite space. The third order of worlds is the sum total of all the suns of the starry space. The fourth order of worlds is the sun that illuminates us with all its laws and dimensions. The fifth order of worlds is made up of all the planets of the solar system. The sixth order of worlds is the earth in itself, with its 7 dimensions and regions inhabited by infinite beings. The seventh order of worlds is formed by those 7 concentric spheres, or infernal worlds, of the submerged mineral kingdom below the earth's cortex. Music, the verb, placed by the Logos in 7 musical octaves, sustains the universe, firm in its march. The first order of worlds, the note Do. The second order of worlds, the note Si. The third order of worlds, the note La. The fourth order of worlds, the note So. The fifth order of worlds, the note Fa. The sixth order of worlds, the note Mi. The seventh order of worlds, the note Re. Then everything returns to the absolute with the note Do. Without music, without the verb, without the great word, the marvelous existence of the 7 cosmos would be impossible. Do, Re, Mi. Fa, So, La, Si. Si, La, So, Fa, Mi, Re, Do. The 7 notes of the great scale of the creative verb resound in all of creation, because in the beginning was the verb. The first order of worlds is wisely governed by the only law, by the great law. The second order of worlds is governed by 3 laws. The third order of worlds is governed by 6 laws. The fourth order of worlds is governed by 12 laws. The fifth order of worlds is governed by 24 laws. The sixth order of worlds is governed by 48 laws. The seventh order of worlds is governed by 96 laws. When one talks about the word, one is also talking about sound, about music, rhythms, the fire with its 3 measures of the Mahavan and the Chodavan, which sustain the universe firm in its march. Pseudo-occultists and pseudo-esoterists only mention the microcosm and the macrocosm. They merely mention 2 orders of worlds, when in reality there are 7 cosmos, 7 orders of worlds, sustained by the verb, by music, by the spermatic and luminous fiat of the first instant. Each of the 7 cosmoses is beyond all doubt a living organism that breathes, feels, and lives. From the esoteric point of view, we can affirm that every progress upwards is the result of a progress downwards. One cannot ascend without descending. First one has to descend and then ascend. If we want to know a cosmos, we should first know the 2 adjoining ones, the one that is above and the one that is below, because both determine all the circumstances and vital phenomena of the cosmos that we want to study, to know. Example: in this era in which scientists struggle for the conquest of space, tremendous, unfortunately perverse, advances are being made in the field of the infinitely small, in the atomic world. The creation of the 7 cosmoses was only possible by means of the verb, by means of the word, by means of music. Our Gnostic students should never forget what the 3 forces called Father, Son, Holy Spirit are. These 3 forces constitute the sacred triamezikamno. This is the holy affirming, the holy denying, the holy reconciling, the holy God, the holy firm one, the holy immortal. In electricity, these are the 3 poles, positive, negative, and neutral. Without the presence of these 3 poles, all creation is impossible. In Gnostic esoteric science, the 3 independent forces have the following names: Surp Otheos, Surp Skiros, Surp Athanatos. The propelling, affirming positive force, the denying force, the resistance force, the reconciling force, the liberating force, the neutralizing force. These three forces in the ray of creation resemble three wills, three consciousnesses, three units. Each of these three forces contains in itself all the possibilities of the three, but in their point of conjunction, each of them manifest only its principle, the positive, negative, or neutral. It is very interesting to see the three forces in action. They separate, move away from each other, and then come together again in order to form new trinities, which originate new worlds, new creations. In the Absolute, the three forces are the one Logos, the army of the verb within the great unity of life free in its movement. The creative process of the sacred cosmic common triamazikamno was initiated by the sexual marriage of the Word, because in the beginning was the Verb, and the Verb was with God, and the Verb was God. Because of him all things were made, and without him nothing that is made would have been made. In accordance with the sacred law of Heptapar Shinoch, the law of seven temples were established in the chaos for the construction of this solar system. In accordance with the sacred law of Triamazikamno, the law of three, the Elohim divided themselves into three groups within every temple to sing in accordance with the litter of fire. The work of making fecund the Prakriti, in other words the chaos, the cosmic mother, the great womb, is always the labor of the very sacred Theomertma Logos, the third force. The three groups organized themselves within each temple in the following manner. First, a priest. Second, a priestess. Third, a neutral group of Elohim. If we take into consideration that the Elohim are androgynes, it is then clear that they had to polarize themselves at will in a masculine, feminine, and neutral form according to the sacred cosmic common Triamazikamno. The priest and the priestess were before the altar, and on the ground floor of the temple, the andro choir of the Elohim. The rituals of fire were sung, and the sexual marriage of the Word fecunded the great womb of the chaos, and the universe was born. The angels create with the power of the Word. The larynx is a uterus where the Word is gestated. We should awaken consciousness in the Word, in the creative larynx, so that it one day may also be able to pronounce the spermatic and luminous fiat of the first instant. Consciousness sleeps in our larynx. We are unconscious with the Word. We need to become fully conscious of the Word. It is said that silence is golden. We say that there exist criminal silences. It is as bad to speak when one should remain silent as it is to remain silent when one should speak. There are times when to speak is a transgression. There are times when to remain silent is also a transgression. Words are lovely, but sterile of he that does not act as he says, like a beautiful flower, full of color, but without fragrance. But similar to a beautiful flower full of color and fragrance are the words that are lovely and fertile of he that acts according to how he speaks. It is urgent to end the mechanicity of words. It is necessary to speak with precision in a conscious and opportune manner. We need to be conscious of the verb. There is responsibility in words, and to play with the verb is a sacrilege. Nobody has the right to judge anyone. It is absurd to slander our fellow men. It is stupid to murmur about others' lives. Accusing words fall upon us sooner or later, like a ray of vengeance. Slanderous, infamous words always return to the one who pronounced them, converted into rocks that hurt. In other times, when human beings were not yet so mechanized with this false civilization, cowboys led the cattle to the stable, singing in a delightful and natural manner. The bull, the cow, the calf become touched by music. They correspond to the zodiacal sign of Taurus, the constellation of the verb, of music. In the great Puranic allegory, the land that is persecuted by Prithu flees, transforming itself into a cow and refuging in Brahma. But this Brahma is the first person of the Hindu Trimurti. Vach, the cow, is the second, and Vira, the divine male, the Kabir, the Logos, is the third person. Brahma is the father, the cow is the divine mother, the chaos, the calf is the Kabir, the Logos. Father, mother, and son. That is the Puranic Trimurti. The father is wisdom, the mother is love, the son is the Logos, the verb. The five-legged astral cow, which Colonel Olcott believes to have seen physically in front of the hypogeum of Carly, the strange and mysterious cow that a certain young miner sees in the Andes as an exotic guardian of those treasures that the miners of his ranch sought, represent the Divine Mother, Rhea, Sibyl, totally developed in the authentic man, in the self-realized master. Gautama the Buddha, or Gautama, literally means the conductor of the cow. Every cowherd, every conductor of the cow can use the jam fire of the cow to enter the genus lands, palaces, temples, and cities. With the power of the Divine Mother, we can visit Agarthi, the genus cities of the subterranean world. Taurus invites us to reflection. Let us remember that Mercury stole the cows of the sun. Taurus governs the creative larynx. It is urgent for the Kundalini to flourish in our fecund lips made verb. It is only in this manner that we can use the jam fire to enter the kingdom of the genus. In this period of Taurus, we should take light to our creative larynx with the purpose of preparing it for the advent of the fire. The disciple should sit in a comfortable armchair. He should close his physical eyes in order that nothing of this vain and stubborn world to distract him. He should empty the mind, cast out of his mind all kinds of thoughts, desires, worries, etc. He should now imagine that the light accumulated in Aries, in his chalice, in his head, moves with Taurus to the creative larynx. The devotee should sing the mantram, Ah. He should open his mouth properly with the Ah, imagine that the light descends from the head to the larynx, vocalize the Oo, vividly imagining that the light floods the throat. The mouth should be rounded properly to sing the Oo. The last letter is the M, closing his lips, expelling or casting out the breath with force, as if eliminating the refuse from the throat. This work is done singing the powerful mantram Ah 4 times. In the thyroid gland, which secretes the biological iodine, is located the magnetic center of the magical ear. With the exercises of Taurus, one develops the magical ear, the power to hear the cosmic symphonies, the music of the spheres, the rhythms of the fire which sustain the 7 cosmos in accordance with the law of the octaves. The thyroid gland is located in the neck, in the creative larynx. The thyroid gland is governed by Venus, and the parathyroids are governed by Mars. Taurus is the house of Venus. The stone of Taurus is the agate. The metal of this sign is copper. In practice, we have been able to evince that taurines should not marry persons of Aquarius, because they inevitably fail due to the incompatibility of characters. The sign of Taurus is fixed, an earth sign. It tends to stability. And since the sign of Aquarius is aerial, mobile, revolutionary, it is clear that they are incompatible. Taurines are like oxen, humble and hard workers, but when they become furious, they are terrible like the bull. In their lives, taurines undergo great amorous deceptions. They are reserved, conservative. They follow step by step, like the ox, the outlined path. Taurines are very sensitive. Anger in taurines is of slow growth and customarily culminates in strong volcanic outbursts. The mediocre type of Taurus is customarily very egotistical, gluttonous, quarrelsome, passionate, irate, and proud. Chapter 3. Gemini. Identification and fascination lead to the sleep of the consciousness. For example, you are going quite calmly on the street. You suddenly meet a public demonstration. The masses vociferate. They talk about the leaders of the people. The flags wave through the air. People seem to be crazy. Everybody talks. Everybody yells. That public demonstration is very interesting. You already forgot everything you had to do. You become identified with the masses. The speaker's words convince you. The public demonstration is so interesting that you already forgot yourself. You have become identified so much with that street demonstration that you no longer think of anything else. You are fascinated. You now fall into the sleep of consciousness. Mixed with the shouting masses, you also shout, and you even throw stones and insults. You are dreaming beautifully. You no longer know who you are. You have forgotten everything. We will now give you another simpler example. You are in your living room, seated before the television screen. Cowboy scenes appear. There is shooting, lovers' dramas, etc., etc. The movie is very interesting. It has totally caught your attention. You have already forgotten yourself, that you even shout with enthusiasm. You are identified with the cowboys, with the gunshots, with the couple of lovers. The fascination is now terrible. You do not even remotely remember yourself. You have entered a very profound sleep. In those moments, you only want to see the triumph of the hero of the movie. You rejoice with him. You are worried about the fate he may have. Thousands and millions are the circumstances that produce identification, fascination, and sleep. People identify with persons, things, ideas, and every type of identification is followed by fascination and sleep. People live with consciousness asleep. They work dreaming. They drive cars dreaming. And they also kill pedestrians who walk dreaming on the streets, absorbed in their own thoughts. During the hours of rest of the physical body, the ego, I, exits the physical body and takes along its dreams wherever it goes. When it returns to the physical body, when it once again enters the vigil state, it continues with its same dreams, and in this manner it spends its entire life dreaming. The persons that die cease to exist, but the ego, I, continues in the supersensible regions beyond death. At the hour of death, the ego takes along its dreams, its worldliness, and lives in the world of the dead with its dreams. It continues dreaming. With the consciousness asleep, it ambulates like a somnambulist, asleep, unconscious. Whoever wants to awaken consciousness should work here and now. We have the consciousness incarnated, and that is why we should work it here and now. Whoever awakens consciousness in this three-dimensional world awakens in the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensions. The one who wants to live consciously in the superior worlds should awaken here and now. The four Gospels insist on the necessity of awakening, but people do not understand. People sleep profoundly, but they believe that they are awake. When someone accepts that he is asleep, it is a clear sign that he already begins to awaken. It is very difficult to make other persons comprehend that they have their consciousness asleep. People never accept the tremendous truth that they are asleep. The one who wants to awaken consciousness should practice inner self-remembering from moment to moment. This exercise of being in self-remembering from moment to moment is in fact an intensive work. A moment, an instant of forgetfulness is enough to begin dreaming beautifully. We urgently need to be watching all our thoughts, sentiments, desires, emotions, habits, instincts, sexual impulses, etc. Every thought, emotion, movement, instinctive act, sexual impulse should be immediately auto-observed as they come forth in our psyche. Any lack of attention is sufficient to fall into the sleep of consciousness. Many times you are walking on the street, absorbed in your own thoughts, identified with those thoughts, fascinated, dreaming beautifully. Suddenly, a friend passes near you, greets you. You do not return the greeting because you do not see him. You are dreaming. The friend becomes angry. He assumes that you are a person without manners or that you are possibly angry. The friend is also going around dreaming. If he was awake, he would not make such conjectures to himself. He would immediately realize that you are walking around asleep. It is very difficult to stay awake from moment to moment, but it is indispensable. When we learn to live awake from moment to moment, then we stop dreaming here and outside of the physical body. It is necessary to know that when people fall asleep, they come out of their physical bodies, but they carry along their dreams. They live in the internal worlds dreaming, and when they return to the physical body, they continue with their dreams. They continue dreaming. When one learns to live awake from moment to moment, one stops dreaming here and in the internal worlds. It is necessary to know that the ego, I, enveloped in its lunar bodies, exits the physical body when the body falls asleep. Unfortunately, the ego lives asleep in the internal worlds.
Besides the ego, that which is called essence, soul, fraction of a soul, buddhata, consciousness, exists inside the lunar bodies. It is that consciousness that we should awaken here and now. Here in this world, we have the consciousness. Here we should awaken it if we truly want to stop dreaming and live consciously in the superior worlds. The person with awake consciousness lives, works, acts consciously in the superior worlds while his body rests in his bed. The conscious person does not have unfoldment problems. The problem of learning to unfold oneself at will is only for the asleep. The awake person does not even concern himself with learning to unfold himself. He lives consciously in the superior worlds while his physical body sleeps in bed. The awake person no longer dreams. During the rest of the body, he lives in those regions where people wander dreaming, but with his consciousness awake. The awake person is in contact with the White Lodge. He visits the temples of the great Universal White Fraternity and interviews with his Guru Deva while his body sleeps. Inner self-remembering, from moment to moment, develops the spatial sense, and then we can even see the dreams of people who walk the streets. The spatial sense includes sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, etc. in itself. The spatial sense is the functionalism of the awake consciousness. The chakras, of which occultist literature speaks, in relation to the spatial sense, are what the flame of a match is in relation to the sun. If inner self-remembering from moment to moment is fundamental to awaken consciousness, learning to use attention is no less fundamental. Gnostic students should learn to divide attention into 3 parts: subject, object, and place. Subject, to not fall into the forgetting of oneself before any representation. Object, to observe everything, every representation, every fact, every event, no matter how insignificant the latter may seem, in detail without forgetting oneself. Place, the rigorous observation of the place where we may be. Ask ourselves, what place is this? Why am I here? Within this place factor, we should include the dimensional issue, since it could be the case that we are really in the 4th or in the 5th dimension of nature during the moment of observation. Let us remember that nature has 7 dimensions. The law of gravity reigns in the 3-dimensional world. The law of levitation exists within the superior dimensions of nature. Upon observing a place, we should never forget the matter of the 7 dimensions of nature. It is convenient, therefore, to ask ourselves, in what dimension am I? Then it is necessary, in the way of verification, to take the highest possible jump with the intention of floating in the surrounding atmosphere. It is logical that if we float, it is because we are outside of the physical body. We should never forget that when the physical body sleeps, the ego, with the lunar bodies and the essence within, unconsciously ambulates like a somnambulist in the molecular world. The division of attention into subject, object, and place leads to the awakening of consciousness. After becoming accustomed to this exercise, to this division of attention into three parts, to these questions, to this little jump, etc., many Gnostic students ended up practicing the same exercise during the sleep of the physical body, when they were really in the superior worlds, and when they made the famous experimental jump, they floated delightfully in the surrounding atmosphere. They then awakened consciousness. They then remembered that the physical body had remained asleep in the bed, and full of joy, they were able to dedicate themselves to the study of the mysteries of life and death in the superior worlds.
It is logical to say that an exercise that is practiced from moment to moment daily, that becomes a habit, a custom, is recorded so much in the different zones of the mind that afterwards it is automatically repeated during dreaming, when we are really outside of the physical body, and the result is the awakening of consciousness. Gemini is an air sign, governed by the planet Mercury. Gemini governs the lungs, arms, and legs. Exercise. During the zodiacal sign of Gemini, Gnostic students should lie down on their backs and relax the body. Next, one has to inhale the air 5 times and also exhale it 5 times. When one inhales, one has to imagine that the light formerly accumulated in the larynx now acts on the bronchi and lungs. Upon inhaling, the legs and arms will be opened to the left and to the right. The legs and arms will be closed upon exhaling. Mercury is the metal of Gemini. Its stone is the golden beryl, and its color is yellow. Gemini natives love traveling a great deal. They commit the error of ignoring the wise voice of the heart. They want to resolve everything with the mind. They become angry easily. They are very dynamic, versatile, voluble, irritable, intelligent. Their lives are full of successes and failures, and they possess a mad courage. Gemini natives are problematic due to their rare dualism, due to that double personality that characterizes them, and which is symbolized among the Greeks by those mysterious brothers called Castor and Pollux. One never knows how the Gemini native will proceed in this or that case due precisely to their double personality. At any specific moment, the Gemini native results a very sincere friend, capable of sacrificing even his own life out of friendship for the person to whom he has offered his love. But at any other moment, he is capable of the worst infamies against that same loved person. The inferior type of Gemini is very dangerous, and that is why his friendship is not advisable. The most serious defect of the Gemini natives is the tendency of falsely judging all persons. The twins, Castor and Pollux, invite us to reflection. It is in fact known that in nature, manifested matter and the occult energy symbolized in the heat, light, electricity, the chemical energies, and other superior ones which are still unknown to us, always process themselves in an inverse manner, and the appearance of one presupposes the entropy or disappearance of the other. No less and no more than the mysterious brothers Castor and Pollux, a symbol of such a phenomenon among the Greeks. They alternately lived and died in the same manner that matter and energy anywhere are alternately born and die, appear and disappear. The process of Gemini is vital in cosmogenesis. The original Earth was a sun that gradually condensed at the expense of a nebulous ring when, by irradiation or cooling down, the first solid film of our globe was determined by means of the chemical phenomenon of dissipation or entropy of the energy, which constitutes the gross states of matter, which we call solid and liquid. All of these changes in nature are carried out in accordance with the intimate processes of Castor and Pollux. During these times of the 20th century, life has already initiated its return to the absolute, and gross matter begins to transform itself into energy. We have been told that in the fifth round, the Earth shall be a cadaver, a new moon, and that life will develop with all of its constructive and destructive processes in the etheric world. From the esoteric point of view, we can affirm that Castor and Pollux are twin souls. The being, the inner self of each of us, has two twin souls, the spiritual and the human souls. In the run-of-the-mill intellectual animal, the being, the inner self, is not born nor dies, nor reincarnates, but it does send the essence to each new personality. The essence is a fraction of the human soul, the buddhata. It is urgent to know that the buddhata, the essence, is deposited within the lunar bodies with which the ego garbs itself. Speaking in a little clearer manner, we will say that the essence is unfortunately bottled up in the lunar ego. The lost ones descend. The descent to the infernal worlds only has as objective the destruction of the lunar bodies and the ego by means of the submerged involution. It is only by destroying the bottle that the essence escapes. All of those incessant changes of matter into energy and energy into matter always invite us to reflect on Gemini. Gemini is intimately related to the bronchi, lungs, and breathing. The microcosm man is made to the image and likeness of the macrocosm. The earth also breathes. The earth inhales the vital sulfur of the sun and then exhales it already converted into terrestrial sulfur, which is analogous to man that inhales pure oxygen and exhales it converted into carbon dioxide. This vital wave alternately ascending and descending, true systole and diastole, inhalation and exhalation surge forth from the most profound bosom of the earth. Chapter 4. Cancer. Upon leaving the body, taking the path of fire, of the light of the day, of the fortnight of the moon, and of the northern solstice, those who know Brahma go to Brahma. Verse 24, Chapter 8, the Bhagavad Gita. The yogi who, upon dying, goes on the path of smoke, of the dark fortnight of the moon, and of the southern solstice, reaches the lunar sphere, and is then reborn. Verse 28, Chapter 8, the Bhagavad Gita. These two paths, the luminous and the dark, are considered permanent. One becomes emancipated on the first one, and is reborn on the second one. Verse 26, Chapter 8, Bhagavad Gita. The being is not born, nor does he ever die. He does not reincarnate. He has no origin. He is eternal, immutable. He is before everyone, and does not die when the body is killed. Verse 20, Chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita. The ego borns, the ego dies. Distinguish between the ego and the being. The ego is not born, neither does it die, nor reincarnate. Three are the types of fruits of actions: unpleasant, pleasant, and the mixture of both. Those fruits become adhered after death to those who have not renounced, but not to the man of renunciation. Verse 12, Chapter 18, the Bhagavad Gita. Learn from me, O mighty armed one, about these 5 causes related to the fulfillment of actions, according to the highest wisdom, which is the goal of every action. Verse 13, Chapter 18, the Bhagavad Gita. The body, the ego, the organs, the functions, and the deities, or planets, are the 5 causes. Verse 14, Chapter 18, Bhagavad Gita. Any proper or improper act, whether it be physical, verbal, or mental, has those 5 causes. Verse 15, Chapter 18, Bhagavad Gita. Now such being the case, the one who, due to defective comprehension, considers Atman, the being, the absolute, as an actor, is stubborn, does not see reality. Verse 16, Chapter 81, the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita therefore makes a differentiation between the ego, I, and the being, Atman. The intellectual animal, erroneously called man, is a compound of body, ego, I, organs, and functions. It is a machine moved by the deities, or we should better say, the planets. Many times, any cosmic catastrophe is enough for the waves that reach the earth to launch those sleeping human machines to the battlefields. Millions of sleeping machines against millions of sleeping machines. The moon brings egos to the womb, and the moon takes them away. Max Heindel says that conception is always carried out while the moon is in Cancer. Conception without the moon is impossible. The first 7 years of life are governed by the moon. The second 7 years of life are 100% mercurial. The child then goes to school, is restless, is in incessant movement. The third septennium of life, tender adolescence between 14 and 21 years of life, are governed by Venus, the star of love. That is the age of the sting, the age of love, the age in which we see life rose-colored glasses. From 21 up to 42 years of life, we have to occupy our little place under the sun and to define our life. That period is governed by the sun. The septennium, comprised by the period between 42 and 49 years of age, is 100% Martian, and life then becomes an authentic battlefield, because Mars is war. The period between 49 and 56 years of age is Jupiterian. It is clear that those who have Jupiter well situated in their horoscope during that period of their life are respected by the whole world, and if they do not possess the unnecessary worldly riches, they at least have what is necessary in order to be able to live very well. Another is the fate of those who have Jupiter badly situated in their horoscope. Those persons then suffer the unutterable. They lack bread, clothes, shelter. They are ill-treated by others, etc., etc., etc. The period of life comprised between 56 and 63 years of age is governed by the Ancient of the Heavens, old Saturn. Really, old age begins at 56 years of age. Once the period of Saturn has passed, the moon returns. It brings the ego to birth, and it takes it away. If we carefully observe the elders of very advanced age, we can verify that they certainly return to the age of children. Some old men and women once again play with little cars and dolls. Elders who are older than 63 and children under 7 are governed by the moon. Among thousands of men, perhaps one will strive for perfection. Among those strivers, one possibly achieves perfection, and among the perfect, perhaps one knows me perfectly. The ego is lunar, and upon leaving the physical body, it goes on the path of smoke, of the dark fortnight of the moon, and of the southern solstice, and soon returns to a new womb. The moon carries it away, and the moon brings it. That is the law. The ego is garbed with lunar vehicles. The internal vehicles studied by theosophy are of a lunar nature. The sacred scriptures of the Jam says the universe is inhabited by different creatures existing in samsara, born from different families and castes. Due to having committed several actions, and depending on what they are, they sometimes go to the world of the gods, other times to the inferno, and sometimes they become asuras, diabolic persons. This is how living beings who are incessantly born and reborn because of their evil actions do not despise samsara. The moon carries away all egos, but does not bring them all back around once again. During these times, the majority enter the infernal worlds, the sublunar regions, the submerged mineral kingdom, the exterior darkness where only crying and gnashing of teeth are heard. Few are the disembodied that can today afford the luxury of some vacations in the world of the gods before returning to a new womb through the doors of the moon. Many are those who return immediately, carried away and brought by the moon without having enjoyed the delights of the superior worlds. The perfect, elected ones, those who dissolved the ego, fabricated their solar bodies, and sacrificed themselves for humanity, are blessed. Upon leaving the physical body with death, they take the path of fire, of the light, of the day, of the luminous fortnight of the moon and of the northern solstice. They have incarnated the being. They know Brahma, the Father who is in secret, and it is clear that they go to Brahma, the Father. Jainism says that during this great day of Brahma, 24 greater prophets who have attained total perfection descend to this world. Gnostic scriptures say that there are 12 saviors, in other words, 12 avatars. But if we think of a John the Baptist as precursor, and of Jesus as an avatar for Pisces, the age that just passed, we can then comprehend that for each of the 12 zodiacal ages, there is always a precursor and an avatar, a total of 24 great prophets. Mahavira was Buddha's precursor, and John the Baptist was that of Jesus. The sacred Rascorano, death, is full of inner beauty. The truth about death is only known by the one who has experienced its deep significance. The moon carries away and brings the deceased. The extremes touch each other. Death and conception are intimately united. The path of life is formed by the tracks of the hoofs of the horse of death. The disintegration of all the elements that constitute the physical body originate a very special vibration which invisibly passes through time and space. Exercise will permit us to remember our present life and the previous one and the past existences. The retrospective exercise permits us to become conscious of our own lunar ego, of our own errors. Let us remember that the ego is a bunch of memories, desires, passions, anger, covetousness, lust, pride, laziness, gluttony, self-esteem, resentments, vengeances, etc. If we want to dissolve the ego, we should first study it. The ego is the root of ignorance and pain. Only the being, Atman, is perfect, but he is not born, neither does he die nor reincarnate. This is how Krishna said it in the Bhagavad Gita. If the student falls asleep during the retrospective exercise, so much the better, because in the internal worlds he will be able to know himself, remember his entire life, and all of his past lives. In the same manner that the medical surgeon needs to study a cancerous tumor before extirpating it, likewise the Gnostic needs to study his own ego before extirpating it. During cancer, the energies accumulated in the bronchi and lungs by Gemini should now be passed on, in cancer, to the thymus gland. The cosmic forces which ascend through our organism meet at the thymus gland with the forces which descend, and the two interlaced triangles, Solomon's seal, is formed. The disciples should meditate daily on this seal of Solomon being formed in the thymus gland. We have been told that the thymus gland regulates the growth of children. It is interesting that the mother's mammary glands are intimately related to the thymus gland. That is why the maternal milk can never be substituted by any other food for children. The natives of Cancer have a character that is as variable as the phases of the moon. The natives of Cancer are peaceful by nature, but they are terrible when they become angry. The natives of Cancer have a disposition for the manual arts, practical arts. The natives of Cancer have a vivid imagination, but they should be careful of fantasy. Conscious imagination is advisable. The mechanical imagination, called fantasy, is absurd. Cancer people have a soft, shy, and timid nature, homely virtues. In Cancer, we sometimes find some individuals who are too passive, slack, lazy. The natives of Cancer are very fond of novels, movies, etc. The metal of Cancer is silver. The pearl is its stone. Its color is white. Cancer, the sign of the crab or of the sacred scarab, is the house of the moon. The vibratory waves of the deceased are similar to television waves that carry images. The embryo is, to the waves of death, what a screen is to the waves of transmitting stations. The vibratory waves of death carry the image of the deceased. This image remains deposited in the fecundated egg. Under the lunar influence, the spermatozoa penetrates the egg's covering, which instantly closes once again, imprisoning it. There it generates a very interesting field of attraction, attracting and being attracted towards the feminine nucleus, which silently awaits in the egg's center. When these two capital nuclei fuse into a single unit, the chromosomes begin their famous dance, intertwining and re-intertwining themselves in an instant. This is how the design of someone who agonized and died comes to crystallize in the embryo. Each ordinary cell of the human organism contains 40 chromosomes. This reminds us of the 48 laws of the world in which we live. The reproductive cells of the organism only contain a single chromosome from each pair, but in their union they produce the new combination of 48, which cause each embryo to be unique and different. Every human form, every organism is a precious machine. Each chromosome carries in itself the seal of some function, quality, or special characteristic. One pair determines the gender, since the duality of this pair is what makes females. The odd pair of chromosomes originates males. Let us remember the biblical legend of Eve, who was made from Adam's rib, and having therefore one rib more than him. The chromosomes themselves are made up of genes, and each of the latter by a few molecules. Really, the genes constitute the frontier between this world and the other, between the third and the fourth dimension. The waves of the dying, the waves of death, act upon the genes, putting them in order inside the fecundated egg. This is how the lost physical body is reconstructed. This is how the design of the deceased becomes visible in the embryo. During the period of Cancer, our Gnostic disciples should practice, before falling asleep in their bed, a retrospective exercise of their own life, like someone who is watching a movie from the end to the beginning, or like someone who reads a book from the end to the beginning, from the last to the first page. The objective of this retrospective exercise of our own life is to auto-know, auto-discover ourselves, to recognize our good and evil actions, to study our own lunar ego, to make conscious the subconscious. It is necessary to arrive in a retrospective manner at our birth and remember it. A superior effort will permit the student to connect his birth with the death of his previous physical body. Drowsiness combined with meditation with the retrospective. Chapter 5. Leo. Annie Besant narrates a case of Master Nanak which is well worth the while to transcribe. It was a Friday that day, and when the hour of prayer arrived, master and servant headed towards the mosque. When the Karl, Muslim priest, started the prayers, the Nawab and his retinue prostrated themselves, as is prescribed by the Mohammedan rite. Nanak remained standing, still and silent. Once the prayer had ended, the Nawab confronted the young man, and, indignant, he asked him, "Why have you not fulfilled the ceremonies of the law? You are a liar and a fake. You should not have come here to stand like a post." Nanak replied, "You prostrated yourself with your face on the floor, while your thoughts wandered through the clouds, for you were thinking of bringing horses from Kandar, and not in the recitation of the prayer." As to the priest, he was automatically practicing the ceremonies of prostration, while at the same time his thoughts were in saving the she-donkey that gave birth days ago. How was I going to pray with people who kneel out of routine and repeat words like a parrot? The Nawab confessed that, in effect, he had been thinking during the entire ceremony on the planned purchase of horses. As far as the Qari was concerned, he openly manifested his disgust and pressed the young man with many questions. Really, it is necessary to learn how to pray scientifically. The one who learns to intelligently combine prayer with meditation will obtain marvelous objective results. But it is urgent to comprehend that there are different prayers, and that their results are different. There are very ancient prayers which are authentic recapitulations of cosmic events, and we can experience their entire content if we meditate on each word, on each phrase, with true conscious devotion. The Our Father is a magical formula of immense sacerdotal power. But it is urgent to comprehend in depth and in a total manner the profound meaning of each word, of each phrase, of each supplication. The Our Father is a prayer of petition, a prayer to converse with the Father who is in secrecy. The Our Father combined with deep meditation produces marvelous objective results. The Gnostic rituals, religious ceremonies, are authentic treatises of occult wisdom for the person who knows how to meditate, for those who comprehend with the heart. The one who wishes to tread the path of the tranquil heart should concentrate the prana, life, and the sexual energy in the cerebrum, and the mind in the heart. It is urgent to learn to think with the heart, to deposit the mind in the heart temple. The cross of initiation is always received in the marvelous temple. Nanak, the founding master of the Sikh religion in the sacred land of the Vedas, taught the path of the heart. Nanak taught fraternity among all religions, schools, sects, etc. When we attack all religions, or any religion in particular, we commit the crime of violating the law of the heart. In the heart temple, there is a place for all religions, sects, orders, etc. All religions are precious pearls strung on the golden thread of the divinity. Our Gnostic movement is made up by people of all religions, schools, sects, spiritual societies, etc. In the heart temple, there is place for all religions, for all worships. Jesus said, "In loving one another, thou shalt prove that thou art my disciples." The Sikh scriptures, like those of every religion, are really ineffable. Among the Sikhs, Omkara is the primary divine being who created heaven, the earth, the waters, and all that exists. Omkara is the unmanifested, endless, primary spirit, without a beginning, without an end, whose light illuminates the 14 dwellings, instantaneous knower, internal regulator of every heart. Space is its power. The sun and the moon are its lamps. The army of the stars its pearls, O Father. The odorific breeze of the Himalayas is your incense. The wind refreshes you. The plant kingdom pays you tributes of flowers. O light, for you are the hymns of praise, O destroyer of fear. The Anatal Shabda, virgin sound, resounds as your drums. You have no eyes, and you have them by the thousands. You have no feet, and you have them by the thousands. You have no nose, and you have them by the thousands. This your marvelous work enraptures us. Your light, O glory, is in all things. The light of your light radiates from all beings. This light radiates from the teachings of the Master. It is an arati. Nanak, the great Master, in accordance with the Upanishads, comprehends that Brahma, the Father, is one, and that the ineffable gods are merely his partial manifestations, reflections of his absolute beauty. The Guru Deva is the one who is already one with the Father, Brahma. Fortunate is the one who has a Guru Deva as a guide and director. Blessed be the one who has found the Master of perfection. The path is narrow, straight, and frighteningly difficult. One needs the Guru Deva, the director, the guide. In the Heart Temple we will find Han, the being. In the Heart Temple we will find the Guru Deva. Now we will transcribe a few Sikh stanzas about the devotion to the Guru Deva. O Nanak, recognize him as the true Guru, the beloved one who unites you to the All. 100 times a day I would like to sacrifice myself for my Guru who has converted me into a god in a short time. Even if 100 moons and 1,000 suns shone, profound darkness would reign without the Guru. Blessed be my venerable Guru who knows Han, the being, and who has taught us to treat friends and enemies alike. O Lord, favor us with the company of Guru Deva, so that together with him we, lost sinners, may make a journey by swimming. Guru Deva, the true Guru, is Para Brahma, the Supreme Lord. Nanak prostrates himself before Guru Deva Han. In India, a sannyasi of the mind is one who serves the true Guru Deva, who has found him in the heart, who works in the dissolution of the lunar ego. Whoever wants to put an end to the ego, to the I, should annihilate anger, covetousness, lust, envy, pride, laziness, gluttony. It is only by putting an end to all those defects in all the levels of the mind that the I dies in a radical, total, and definite manner. Meditation on the name Han, the being, permits us to experience what is real, authentic. It is necessary to learn how to pray the Our Father, to learn to converse with Brahma, the Father, who is in secrecy. A single Our Father well prayed and wisely combined with meditation is an entire work of high magic. A single Our Father properly prayed is done in a period of 1 hour, or in a little more than an hour. After the prayer, we must know how to await the reply of the Father, and this means to know how to meditate, to have the mind still and in silence, empty of all thoughts, awaiting the reply of the Father. When the mind is still within and without, when the mind is in silence within and without, when the mind has freed itself from dualism, then the novel comes to us. It is necessary to empty the mind of all kinds of thoughts, desires, passions, appetites, fears, etc., in order for the experience of what is real to come to us. The eruption of the void, the experience in the illuminating void, are only possible when the essence, the soul, the Buddhata, frees itself from the intellectual bottle. The essence is engrossed within the tremendous battle of the opposites, heat and cold, like and dislike, yes and no, good and evil, pleasant and unpleasant. When the mind is still, when the mind is in silence within and without, when the mind has freed itself from dualism, then the novel comes to us. It is necessary to empty the mind of all kinds of thoughts, desires, passions, appetites, fears, etc., in order for the experience of what is real to come to us. Pray, therefore, good disciple, and then, with the mind very still and in silence, empty of all kinds of thoughts, await the reply from the Father. Ask, and it shall be given. Knock, and it shall be opened. To pray is to converse with God, and certainly one has to learn to converse with the Father, with Brahma. The heart temple is house of prayer. Found in the heart temple are the energies that come from above with the energies that come from below, forming Solomon's seal. It is necessary to pray and meditate profoundly. It is urgent to know how to relax the physical body in order for meditation to be correct. Before beginning the exercises of prayer and meditation combined, relax the body properly. The Gnostic disciple should lie down in a face-up position, in other words, lying on his back on the floor or in bed, legs and arms open to the right and left, in the form of a five-pointed star. This pentagonal star position is formidable due to its deep meaning, but persons who, for any circumstance, are unable to meditate in this position should then meditate by placing their body in the corpse posture, heels together, tips of the feet spread out in the form of a fan, arms unbent along the sides, placed alongside the trunk. The eyes should be closed in order for things of the physical world to not distract us. Drowsiness properly combined with meditation is very indispensable for the good success of the meditation. It is necessary to try to totally relax all the muscles of the body and then concentrate attention on the tip of the nose until we fully feel the heart pulse in that organ of smell. Then we will continue with the right ear until we feel the heart pulse in the latter. Then we will continue with the right hand, right foot, left hand, left ear, and nose once again, fully feeling the heart pulse separately in each of these organs where we have focused the attention. Control over the physical body begins with control over the pulse. The pulse of the tranquil heart is felt all at once, entirely, in its totality, within the organism. But Gnostics can feel it at will in any part of the body, whether it be on the tip of the nose, an ear, an arm, a foot, etc. It has been demonstrated in practice that by acquiring the possibility of regulating, hastening, or slowing down the pulse, the heartbeat can be hastened or slowed down. The control of the palpitations of the heart can never come from the heart muscles, but rather it depends totally on the control of the pulse. This is, beyond all doubt, the second heart, or great heart. The control of the pulse, or control of the second heart, is achieved totally through the absolute relaxation of all the muscles. Through attention, we can accelerate or slow down the pulsations of the second heart and the beats of the first heart. Samadhi, ecstasy, satori always occur with very slow pulsations, and in mahasainadi, pulsations end. In samadhi, the essence, the buddhata, escapes the personality, then it becomes fused with the being, and the experience of what is real in the illuminating void comes. It is only in the absence of the I that we can converse with the Father, Brahma. Pray and meditate in order for you to be able to listen to the voice of the silence. Leo is the throne of the sun, the heart of the zodiac. Leo governs the human heart. The sun of the organism is the heart. In the heart, the forces from above mix with those from below, so that those from below become liberated. The metal of Leo is pure gold. The stone of Leo is the diamond. The color of Leo is golden. In practice, we have been able to verify that the natives of Leo are like the lion, brave, irate, noble, worthy, constant. But there are many people, and it is clear that among the natives of Leo, we also find those who are arrogant, proud, unfaithful, tyrants, etc. The natives of Leo also have organizational aptitudes. They develop the sentiment and bravery of the lion. The developed persons of this sign get to be great paladins. The mediocre type of Leo is very sentimental and irate. The mediocre type of Leo overestimates his own capacities too much. In every native of Leo, mysticism already developed in an incipient stage always exists. It all depends on the type of person. The natives of Leo are always predisposed to suffer accidents to the arms and hands.
Chapter 6, Virgo. The Prakriti is the Divine Mother, the primordial substance of nature. In the universe, several substances, different elements and sub-elements exist, but all of these are different manifestations of a single substance. The primordial material is the pure Akasha contained in all of space, the Great Mother, the Prakriti. Mahamvantara and Pralaya are two very important Sanskrit terms with which Gnostic students should become familiarized. Mahamvantara is the great cosmic day. Pralaya is the great cosmic night. During the great day, the universe exists. When the great night arrives, the universe ceases to exist and becomes dissolved within the bosom of the Prakriti. The immeasurable infinite space is full of solar systems which have their Mahamvantaras and Pralayas. While some are in their Mahamvantara, others are in their Pralaya. Millions and billions of universes are being born and die within the bosom of the Prakriti. Every cosmos is born from the Prakriti and is dissolved in the Prakriti. Every world is a ball of fire that becomes ignited and extinguished in the bosom of the Prakriti. Everything is born from the Prakriti. Everything returns to the Prakriti. She is the Great Mother. The Bhagavad Gita says, "The great Prakriti is my womb. In that I place the germ. Thence, O Bharatana, is the birth of all beings. Whatever forms are produced, O Kauntreya, in any womb whatsoever, the Prakriti is their womb, and I am the seed-giving father. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, these three gunas, or aspects or qualities, born of the Prakriti, O mighty-armed one, bind fast the embodied to the body. Of these, Sattva, which from its stainlessness is luminous and good, binds by attachment to happiness and by attachment to knowledge, O impeccable one. Know thou, O Kauntreya, that Rajas is of the nature of passion, the source of desire and attachment. This guna binds fast the embodied being to action. But know thou, O Bharata, that Tamas is born of ignorance, deluding all embodied beings. It binds fast the embodied being by heedlessness, laziness, and sleep, as in a sleep consciousness, the sleep of consciousness. During the great pralaya, these three gunas are in perfect equilibrium on the great scales of justice. When imbalance of the three gunas is produced, the aurora of the Mahamvantara is initiated and the universe is born from within the bosom of the Prakriti. During the great pralaya, the Prakriti is unitotal, integral. In the manifestation, in the Mahamvantara, the Prakriti differentiates into the three cosmic aspects: the Divine Mother in infinite space, the Divine Mother in nature, the Divine Mother in man. These are the three mothers, the three Marys of Christianity. Gnostic students should comprehend very well these three aspects of the Prakriti, since this is fundamental in the esoteric work. Besides, it is urgent to know that the Prakriti has its particularity in each man. Gnostic students should not find it strange if we affirm to them that the particular prakriti of each man even has her individual name. This means that we also have a divine mother in each of us. The comprehension of this is fundamental for the esoteric work. The second birth is something else. The third logos, the sacred fire, should first fecund the sacred womb of the Divine Mother. Then follows the second birth. She, the Prakriti, is always a virgin, before childbirth, during childbirth, and after childbirth. In the 8th chapter of this book, we will talk in depth about the practical work related to the second birth. Now we only give a few guidelines. Every master of the White Lodge has his particular Divine Mother, his Prakriti. Every master is the son of an immaculate virgin. If we study comparative religion, we will discover immaculate conceptions everywhere. Jesus is conceived by the deed and grace of the Holy Spirit. The mother of Jesus was an immaculate virgin. Religious scriptures say that Buddha, Jupiter, Zeus, Apollo, Quetzalcoatl, Fuji, Lao Tse, etc., etc., were sons of immaculate virgins, virgins before childbirth, in childbirth, and after childbirth. In the sacred land of the Vedas, Devaki, the Hindu virgin, conceived Krishna, and in Bethlehem, the Virgin Mary conceived Jesus. In Yellow China, on the banks of the Fuji River, the Virgin Huase steps on the footprint of the great man, is covered by a marvelous brilliance, and her womb conceives Fuji, the Chinese Christ, by deed and grace of the Holy Spirit. A basic condition for the second birth is for the third logos, the Holy Spirit, to first intervene, fecunding the virginal womb of the Divine Mother. The sexual fire of the third logos in the Hindustan is known under the name of Kundalini and is symbolized by a serpent of burning fire. The Divine Mother is Isis, Tonantzin, Kali or Parvati, the wife of Shiva, the third logos, and her most powerful symbol is the sacred cow. The serpent should ascend along the spinal canal of the sacred cow. The serpent should fecund the womb of the Divine Mother. It is only in this manner that the Immaculate Conception and the second birth arrive. The Kundalini in itself is a solar fire that is enclosed inside a magnetic center located in the coccygeal bone at the base of the spinal column. When the sacred fire awakens, it ascends through the spinal canal along the spinal column, opening the 7 centers of the spinal column and fecunding the Prakriti. The fire of the Kundalini has 7 degrees of power, and it is necessary to ascend this septenary ladder of fire in order to achieve the second birth. When the Prakriti is fecunded with the flaming fire, it then has formidable powers to aid us. To be born again is equivalent to entering the kingdom. It is very rare to find a twice born. Rare is he who is born a second time. Whoever wants to be born again, whoever wants to achieve final liberation, should eliminate the 3 gunas of the Prakriti from his nature. The one who does not eliminate the sattva guna becomes lost in the labyrinth of theories and abandons the esoteric work. The one who does not eliminate rajas fortifies the lunar ego by means of anger, covetousness, and lust. We should not forget that rajas is the very root of animal desire and the most violent passions. Rajas is the root of all concupiscence. The latter in itself is the origin of every desire. The one who wants to eliminate desire should first eliminate the rajas guna. The one who does not eliminate tamas will always have the consciousness asleep. He will be lazy. He will abandon the esoteric work due to slackness, inertia, laziness, lack of willpower, lukewarmth, lack of spiritual enthusiasm. He will be a victim of the foolish illusions of this world, and he will succumb in ignorance. It has been said that after death, the people of sattvic temperament go on vacation to the paradises or molecular and electronic kingdoms, where they enjoy infinite bliss before returning to a new womb. Initiates know very well by direct experience that the people of Rajasic temperament re-embody or return to this world in an immediate manner or remain at the threshold, awaiting the opportunity to enter a new womb, but without having the bliss of some vacations in the different kingdoms of happiness. Every enlightened one knows with total certainty that after death, persons of a tamasic temperament join the infernal worlds situated by Dante in his Divine Comedy beneath the crust of the earth, within the entrails of the subterranean world. It is urgent to eliminate the three gunas from our inner nature if we truly want to accomplish the esoteric work successfully. The Bhagavad Gita says, "When the seer beholds no agent other than the gunas, and knows he who is higher than the gunas, he attains to my being." Many would like a technique to eliminate the three gunas, but we affirm that it is only by dissolving the lunar ego that one can successfully eliminate the three gunas. The one who remains indifferent and is not perturbed by the gunas, who has realized that it is only the gunas that function and remain firm, without vacillating, is the one who has already dissolved the lunar ego. The one who no longer has concupiscence, who extinguished the fire of lust in all the 49 subconscious departments of the mind, has eliminated the three gunas and dissolved the lunar ego. The earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intellect, and the ego are the 8 categories into which my prakriti is divided. This is how it is written. These are the words of the Blessed One. When the great cosmic day dawns, all beings manifest proceeding from the unmanifested prakriti, and at sunset they disappear into the same unmanifested prakriti. Behind the unmanifested prakriti is the unmanifested absolute. It is necessary to first enter the unmanifested prakriti before submerging ourselves within the bosom of the unmanifested absolute. The blessed goddess mother of the world is that which is called love. She is Isis, whom no mortal has ever unveiled. In the flame of the serpent we adore her. All the great religions worshipped the cosmic mother. She is Adonia, Insoberta, Rhea, Cybele, Tonantzin, etc., etc., etc. The devotee of the Virgin Mother can ask. The sacred scriptures say, "Ask, and thou shalt be given. Knock, and it shall be opened." Worlds are gestated in the great womb of the Divine Mother. Virgo governs the womb. Virgo is very intimately related with the intestines, and in a very special manner with the islets of Langerhans, which secrete insulin, which is so important for sugar digestion. When they arrive at the belly, the forces that ascend from the earth become charged with adrenal hormones that prepare them for their ascent to the heart. During this sign of Virgo, the celestial virgin, we should, lying on our backs, with the body relaxed, move the belly with small jumps, with the purpose of the energies which ascend from the earth becoming charged in the belly with the adrenal hormones. The Gnostic student should comprehend the importance of that cauldron called the stomach, and put an end to the vice of gluttony forever. The disciples of Lord Buddha maintained themselves with only one meal per day. Fish and fruits constitute the principal food of the inhabitants of the planet Venus. Marvelous vital principles exist in grains and vegetables of all types. The sacrifice of cattle, of cows, bulls, is a horrible crime proper of these people and of this lunar race. The two races, the solar and the lunar, have always existed in eternal conflict in the world. Abraham, Isaac, Cab, Iosep were always worshippers of the sacred cow, Io, or of the Egyptian goddess Isis, while already Moses, or better said Esdra, the reformer who altered the teachings of Moses, demand the sacrifice of the cow and the calf, and for their blood to fall upon everyone's head, especially their children. The sacred cow is the symbol of the Divine Mother, Isis, who no mortal has ever unveiled. The twice-born formed the solar race, the solar nation. The people of the solar race would never assassinate a sacred cow. The twice-born are children of the sacred cow. Chapter 29 of Exodus is pure and legitimate black magic. In said chapter, unjustly attributed to Moses, the ritualistic ceremony of cattle sacrifice is minutely described. The lunar race mortally hates the sacred cow. The solar race adores the sacred cow. HPB really saw a five-legged cow. The fifth leg came out of her back. With it, she scratched herself, scared away the flies, etc. Said cow was led by a young man of the Sadhu sect in the land of Hindustan. The five-legged cow is the guardian of the lands and temples of the jinas. The Prakriti, the Divine Mother, develops in the solar man the power that permits him to enter the lands of the jinas, in their palaces, temples, in the gardens of the gods. The only thing that separates us from the land of Jina's enchantments and marvels is a great stone that we should learn how to move.
The Kabbalah is the science of the cow. By reading the 3 syllables of the word Kabbalah in reverse, we have Lavaka. The stone of Kaaba in the Mecca, read in reverse, is Vaka, or the stone of the cow. The great sanctuary of Kaaba is really the sanctuary of the cow. The Prakriti in man is fecundated with the sacred fire and becomes the five-legged sacred cow. Surah 68 of the Quran is marvelous. It talks about the members of the cow as something extraordinary, capable of even resurrecting the dead, or in other words, lunar men, intellectual animals, in order to lead them to the primitive light of the solar religion. We Gnostics adore the sacred cow. We worship the Divine Mother. With the help of the sacred five-legged cow, we can enter the temples of the gods with the physical body in the jina state. If the student meditates profoundly on the five-legged cow, on the Divine Mother, and implores her to place his physical body in the jina state, he can succeed. The important thing is to rise from the bed without losing drowsiness, like a somnambulist. The placing of the physical body in the 4th dimension is something extraordinary, something marvelous, and this is only possible with the help of the sacred five-legged cow. We need to totally develop the sacred cow within ourselves in order to accomplish marvels arid the prodigies of the jina science. The Divine Mother is very close to her Son. She is within the very inner self of each of us, and it is of her, precisely of her, that we should ask for help in the difficult moments of existence. There are 3 types of foods: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. Sattvic foods are constituted of flowers, grains, fruits, and that which is called love. Rajasic foods are strong, passionate, excessively hot, too salty, exaggeratedly sweet, etc. Tamasic foods are in reality constituted by blood and red meat. They do not have love, they are bought and sold or are offered with vanity, pride, and haughtiness. Eat what is necessary to live, neither too little nor in excess. Drink pure water. Bless foods.
Virgo is the zodiacal sign of the Virgin Mother of the world. It is the house of Mercury. Its minerals are the jasper and the emerald. In practice, we have been able to verify that Virgo natives, unfortunately, are quite excessively reasoning, beyond the normal, and skeptical by nature. Reason, the intellect, are very necessary, but when they come out of their orbit, they are then very harmful. The natives of Virgo are good in science, psychiatry, medicine, naturism, pedagogy, etc., etc., etc. The natives of Virgo cannot get along with Piscean people, and that is why we advise them to avoid marriages with Piscean people. The most lamentable thing of Virgo people is the inertia and skepticism that characterizes them. However, it is interesting to know that tense inertia tends to go from the material to the spiritual, up to where it is accessible through experience. The critical analytical talent of Virgo is formidable, and among the great geniuses of this sign is Goethe, who succeeded in transcending the material, inertia, and entered high scientific spirituality. Nonetheless, all Virgo natives are not Goethe. Ordinarily, the egotists of the mediocre people of Virgo is something too grotesque and repugnant. But the Goethes of Virgo are genial and highly altruistic and profoundly disinterested. The natives of Virgo suffer in love and undergo great deceptions due to the fact that Venus, the star of love, in Virgo is in exile.
Chapter 7. Libra. Upon creating the intransigent dogma of evolution, the decrepit Western mind totally forgot the destructive processes of nature. It is interesting that the degenerated mind cannot conceive the inverse involutive process on a large scale. The mind, in a state of decrepitude, confuses a fall with a descent, and the process of destruction, dissolution on a large scale, degeneration, etc., it classifies as change, progress, evolution. Everything evolves and involutes, ascends and descends, comes and goes, fluxes and refluxes. A systole and diastole exists in everything, in accordance with the law of the pendulum. Evolution and its twin sister involution are two laws which are developed and processed in a coordinated and harmonious manner in everything created. Evolution and involution constitute the mechanical axis of nature. Evolution and involution are two mechanical laws of nature which have nothing to do with the self-realization of man. The inner self-realization of man can never be the product of any mechanical law, but rather the result of a conscious work carried out upon and within oneself, on the basis of tremendous super-efforts, in-depth comprehension, and intentional voluntary sufferings. Everything returns to the point of departure, and the lunar ego returns after death to a new womb. It is written that every human being is assigned 108 lives to become self-realized. Time is running out for many persons. Whoever does not attain self-realization within his allotted time ceases to be born, to enter the infernal worlds. In support of the law of involution or retrogression comes the Bhagavad Gita, saying, "They, the evil, cruel and ungrateful, I cast them perpetually into the Asuric wombs in order for them to be born in these worlds, infernal worlds. O Kuntreya, those hallucinated people go to the demonic wombs during many lives and continue falling into more and more inferior bodies each time. Involution. Triple is the door of that destructive inferno. It is made up of lust, anger, and covetousness. That is why it should be abandoned. The anteroom of the infernal worlds is the involutive descent into bodies more and more inferior each time in accordance with the law of involution. Those who descend through the spiral of life fall into demonic wombs during several lives before entering the infernal worlds of nature, situated according to Dante within the interior of the terrestrial organism. In the second chapter, we spoke of the sacred cow and its deep significance. It is interesting that every Brahmin in India, when praying the rosary, counts 108 beads of the latter. There are Hindus who do not consider their sacred duties fulfilled if they do not walk 108 times around the principal cow, and if they do not fill a cup of water and place it for a moment on the cow's tail and drink it as the most sacred and delicious divine liquor. It is urgent to remember that Buddhist necklace has 108 beads. All of this invites us to reflect on the 108 lives which are assigned to the human being. It is clear that the person who does not take advantage of those 108 lives joins the involution of the infernal worlds. Infernal involution is a fall backwards to the past, passing through all the animal, vegetable, and mineral states, through frightful sufferings. The last stage of the infernal involution is the fossil state, after which follows the disintegration of the lost ones. The only thing that is saved from all of that, the tragedy, the only thing that does not disintegrate is the essence, the Buddhata, that fraction of human soul that the intellectual animal carries within his lunar bodies. Involution in the infernal worlds of the submerged mineral kingdom precisely has as objective the liberation of the Buddhata, the human soul, for it to reinitiate its evolutive ascent from the original chaos through the mineral, vegetable, and animal rungs until it reaches the level of intellectual animal, mistakenly called man. It is lamentable that so many souls relapse and return again and again to the infernal worlds. Time in the infernal worlds of the submerged mineral kingdom is frighteningly slow and boring. For every frightfully long 100 years in those atomic infernos of nature, one pays a certain quantity of karma. The gate and the path are sealed by a great stone. Happy is he who can roll away that stone, but that is not a matter of this lesson. That belongs to the lesson of Scorpio. We are now studying the zodiacal sign of the balance, the sign of Libra. We need to become conscious of our own karma, and that is only possible by means of the state of alert novelty. Every effect of life, every event has its cause in a previous life, but we need to become conscious of that. Every moment of happiness or pain should be continued in meditation with a still mind and in profound silence. The result comes to be the experience of the same event in a previous life. We then become conscious of the cause of the act, whether it be pleasant or unpleasant. The one who awakens consciousness can travel in his internal bodies outside the physical body with full conscious will and study his own book of destiny. In the temple of Anubis and his 42 judges, the initiate can study his own book. Anubis is the supreme ruler of karma. The temple of Anubis is found in the molecular world, called the astral world by many people. The initiates can directly negotiate with Anubis. We can pay every karmic debt with good deeds, but we have to negotiate with Anubis. The law of karma, the law of the cosmic balance, is not a blind law. One can also ask for credit from the lords of karma. But every credit must be paid with good deeds, and if not paid, then the law collects with pain. Libra, the zodiacal sign of the balance, governs the kidneys. Libra is the sign of the equilibrating forces, and in the kidneys, the forces of our organism should become balanced in a complete manner. Stand up in a military position of attention, and then, with the arms extended in the form of a cross or scale, move in the form of a scale, inclining 7 times to the right and 7 to the left, with the intention that all of your energies become equilibrated in the kidneys. The movement of the upper half of the spinal column should be like that of a scale. The forces that ascend from the earth, passing by the sieve of our feet along the entire organism, should become equilibrated at the waist, and this is carried out successfully with the balancing movement of Libra. Libra is governed by Venus and Saturn. Its metal is copper, and its stone is the chrysolite. In practice, we have been able to verify that the natives of Libra usually have, in their majority, a certain imbalance in matters related to conjugal life, to love. The natives of Libra create many problems for themselves due to their manner of being frank and just. Libra people of good aspect like things straight and just. People do not understand Libra people well. The latter sometimes appear cruel and merciless. They do not know or want to know about diplomacy. Hypocrisy bothers them. Sweet words of the perverse easily upset them instead of softening them. Libra people have the defect of not knowing how to forgive their fellowmen. They want to see the law and nothing but the law in everything, often forgetting mercy. Libra natives like to travel very much and are persons who faithfully fulfill their duties. Libra natives are what they are and nothing but what they are, frank and just.
People usually become angry with the natives of Libra. They are interpreted erroneously due to that manner of being, and, as is natural, ill is spoken of them, and they usually fill themselves up with unwarranted enemies. The Libra person cannot be approached with double plays. That is not tolerated and forgiven by the Libra person. One has to always be friendly and kind, or always severe with Libra people, but never with that sweetness and harshness, because the Libra person never tolerates and never forgives that. The superior type of Libra always confers total chastity. The inferior type of Libra is very fornicating and adulterous. The superior type of Libra have a certain spirituality that spiritualists do not understand and erroneously judge. The negative inferior type of Libra has dazzling and loquacious, versatile people. He likes to always place himself in the limelight, attract the attention of the whole world. The superior type of Libra wants to always live anonymously and unknown, never feels any attraction for fame, for laurels, for prestige. The superior type of Libra reveals sensibleness and the sense of foresight and thrift. The inferior type of Libra has much superficiality and covetousness. In the medium type of Libra, many qualities and defects of the superior and inferior types of Libra usually mix. Marriage with Pisces people is convenient for the natives of Libra. Libra natives like to do deeds of charity without expecting a reward or boasting or publishing the service done. The superior type of Libra loves select music, takes pleasure in it, and enjoys it to a maximum degree. Libra people also feel attraction for good theater, good literature, etc., etc., etc.
The key of the Mithuna is the black lingarn inserted in the yoni, attributes of the god Shiva, the third Logos, the Holy Spirit. In the Mithuna, the phallus should enter the vagina, but the semen should never be ejaculated or spilled. The couple should withdraw from the sexual act before reaching the spasm in order to avoid the spilling of the seminal liquid. Restrained desire will transmute the seminal liquid into creative energy. The sexual energy ascends up to the cerebrum. This is how the cerebrum is seminized. This is how the semen becomes cerebrized. The Mithuna is the exercise that permits us to awaken and develop the Kundalini, the igneous serpent of our magical powers.
When the Kundalini awakens, it ascends along the medullary canal of the spinal column. The Kundalini opens the 7 churches of the Apocalypse of St. John. The 7 churches are situated on the spinal column. The first church is Ephesus and corresponds to the sexual organs. The sacred serpent, coiled 3.5 times, sleeps within the church of Ephesus. The second church is Smyrna, located at the level of the prostate, and confers upon us the power over the waters. The third church is Pergamos, located at the level of the navel, and confers upon us the power of the fire. The fourth church is Thyatira, located at the level of the heart, and confers upon us the power over the air, and many powers, such as voluntary unfoldment, that of the jhanas, etc. The fifth church is Sardis, located at the level of the creative larynx, and confers upon us the power of the magical ear, which permits us to listen to the voices of the superior worlds and the music of the spheres. The sixth church is Philadelphia, and is located at the point between the eyebrows, and confers upon us the power to see the internal worlds and the creatures that inhabit them. The seventh church is Laodicea. This marvelous church is the 1,000-petaled lotus located in the pineal gland, on the superior part of the cerebrum. Laodicea confers upon us the powers of polyvision, with which we can study all the mysteries of the great day and the great night. The sacred fire of the Kundalini opens the 7 churches in a successive order as it slowly ascends along the spinal canal. The igneous serpent of our magical powers ascends very slowly according to the merits of the heart. When they make contact in the tribani, near the coccyx, at the base of the spinal column, the solar and lunar forces of the sexual energy have the power of awakening the sacred serpent in order for it to ascend along the spinal canal. The sacred fire ascending along the spinal column has the form of a serpent. The sacred fire has 7 degrees of power. It is urgent to work with the 7 degrees of the power of fire. Sex in itself is the 9th sphere. The descent to the 9th sphere was, in the ancient mysteries, the maximum test of the supreme dignity of the Hierophant. Buddha, Jesus the Great Kabir, Hermes, Zoroaster, Muhammad, Dante, etc., etc., etc. The 5 initiations of greater mysteries only have as objective the fabrication of the solar bodies. In Gnosticism and Esotericism, one understands as second birth the fabrication of the solar bodies and the incarnation of the being. The solar bodies gestate within the womb of the Prakriti. The being is conceived by the deed and grace of the third Logos within the womb of the Prakriti. She is a virgin before childbirth, in childbirth, and after childbirth. Every master of the White Lodge is the child of an immaculate virgin. Whoever attains the second birth comes out of the 9th sphere, sex. Whoever achieves the second birth remains totally prohibited from having sexual contact again, and that prohibition is for all eternity. Whoever attains the second birth joins a secret temple, the temple of the twice-born. The run-of-the-mill intelligent animal believes that he is a man, but in reality he is mistaken, because only the twice-born are true men. We knew a lady adept of the White Lodge who fabricated her solar bodies in merely 10 years of very intense work in the 9th sphere. That lady lives with the angels, archangels, seraphim, etc. By working very intensely in the 9th sphere without allowing oneself to fall, one can carry out the work of fabricating the solar bodies in 10 or 20 years, more or less. The lunar race mortally hates this science of the sacred cow, and before accepting it, it prefers to find escape routes and justifications with flashy and hypocritical phrases. The bonzos and dugpas of Red Cape, the black magicians, practice black tantrism. They ejaculate the semen during the Maithuna. It is in this manner that they awaken and develop the abominable Kundartiguador organ. It is urgent to know that the Kundartiguador organ is the tempting serpent in Eden, the sacred fire projected downwards, Satan's tail whose root is in the coccyx. The abominable Kundartiguador organ fortifies the lunar bodies and the ego. Those who live postponing the second birth for future lives end up losing the opportunity, and once the 108 lives expire, they enter the infernal worlds, where only crying and gnashing of teeth are heard. Diogenes sought a man with his lantern in all of Athens, and did not find him. We must seek the twice-born, the true men with the lantern of Diogenes. They are very rare to find. Many pseudo-occultist and pseudo-esoterist students abound who say they want to supposedly attain self-realization. But since they are lunar, when they get to know this science of the ninth sphere, they become scandalized. They curse us. They launch against us their entire defamatory dribble. And if we were in the times of Esdras, they would immolate the sacred cow, saying, "His blood be on us and our children." The road that leads to the abyss is paved with good intentions. It is not only the perverse who enter the abyss. Let us remember the parable of the sterile fig tree. The tree that does not put forth a fruit is cut and cast into the fire. Magnificent students of pseudo-occultism and pseudo-esotericism also live in the infernal worlds.
Scorpio is a very interesting sign. The poison of Scorpio mortally wounds the enemies of the Mithuna, the puritanical insulters who hate sex, those who blaspheme against the third logos, the perverse fornicators, the degenerated ones of infrasexuality, homosexuals, masturbators, etc. Scorpio governs the sexual organs. Scorpio is the house of Mars, the planet of war, and in sex is the root of the great battle between white and black magicians, between the solar and lunar forces. The lunar race mortally hates everything that has the flavor of the Mithuna, sexual magic, white tantrism, the sacred cow, etc. The natives of Scorpio can fall into the most frightening fornication or totally regenerate themselves. In practice, we have been able to verify that the natives of Scorpio suffer a lot in the first half of their life and even have a love that causes them great bitterness. But in the second half of their life, everything changes. Their luck noticeably improves. The natives of Scorpio have a certain tendency towards anger and vengeance. They forgive someone with great difficulty. The women of Scorpio are always in danger of remaining as widows and going through many financial needs during the first part of their life. The men of Scorpio suffer much misery during the first half of life, but due to experience, they improve the second half of their existence. The persons of Scorpio are persons with energy. They are ambitious, reserved, frank, and energetic. As friends, the natives of Scorpio are truly friends, sincere, faithful, capable of sacrificing themselves for friendship. But as enemies, they are very fearful, vengeful, and dangerous. The mineral of Scorpio is the magnet. Its stone is the topaz. The exercise of Scorpio is the Mithuna, and the latter is not only practiced during Scorpio, but all the time, in a continuous manner, until achieving the second birth. However, we should warn that one should never practice 2 consecutive times in the same night. It is only permitted to practice once daily. It is also urgent to know that one should never force one's spouse to practice the Mithuna when she is sick, or when she is menstruating, or in the state of pregnancy, because it is a crime. The woman who has given birth to a child can only practice the Mithuna after 40 days from childbirth. The Mithuna does not impede the reproduction of the species, because the seed always passes to the womb without the need of spilling the semen. The multiple combinations of the infinite substance are marvelous. Many are the students of occultism who complain because they fail, because they suffer seminal discharges, because they do not succeed at avoiding seminal ejaculation. We advise those students a short exercise of 5 minutes on Friday of each week if the case is very serious, or a short exercise of 5 minutes daily if the case is not too serious. After 1 year with these short exercises of 5 minutes of the Mithuna, one can lengthen them by 5 minutes more for another year, and on the 3rd year one would practice 15 minutes daily.
In this manner, little by little each year, one can lengthen the time of the exercise of the Maithuna until becoming capable of practicing 1 hour daily. Chapter 8. Scorpio. The great Hierophant, Jesus Christ, told Nicodemus, "Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." It is necessary to be born of water and the Spirit in order to be able to enter the kingdom of esotericism, the magis regnum. It is urgent to be born again in order to have the full right to enter the kingdom. It is urgent to become twice born. This matter of the second birth was not understood by Nicodemus, and neither has it been understood by all biblical sects. It is necessary to have studied comparative religion and have the key of the arcane AZF if we truly want to comprehend the words of Jesus to Nicodemus. The different biblical sects are fully convinced that they really comprehend what to be born again means and interpret it in the most varied of ways, but certainly, even if they possess much biblical erudition and document one verse with another, and try to explain one verse with another or other verses, the reality is that they do not understand if they do not possess the secret key, the arcane AZF. Nicodemus was wise. He knew the Holy Scriptures profoundly, and yet he did not understand, and said, "How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born?" Jesus, the great Kabir, then gave Nicodemus a Mayan type of answer. "Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God." It is clear that the one who does not have information other than that of the dead letter, the one who does not understand the double significance of the biblical verses, the one who has never known the arcane AZF, interprets these words of the great Kabir in his own way, with only the information that he possesses, and believes that with his sect's baptism or something similar, the problem of the second birth is already resolved. For the Mayans, the Spirit is living fire, and they say we must unite what is above with what is below by means of the water and fire. Hindu Brahmins symbolize the second birth sexually. In their liturgy, a large golden cow is constructed, and the candidate to the second birth has to pass through the hollow body of the cow 3 times by dragging himself, exiging through the vulva, and thus remains consecrated as a true Brahinandwipa, or twice born, once of his mother and another of the cow. It is in this manner that the Brahmins symbolically explain the second birth taught to Jesus to Nicodemus. We have already said in preceding chapters that the cow represents the Divine Mother, but the interesting thing is that the Brahmins call themselves twice born, and their second birth is sexual, born of the cow and exited from within her womb through the vulva.
This matter is very thorny, and the lunar race mortally hates it. They prefer to kill the cow and then insult everyone who talks about the mysteries of sex and the arcane AZF. The Brahmins are not twice born, but symbolically they are. Neither is the master mason truly a master, but symbolically he is. The interesting thing is to reach the second birth, and the problem is 100% sexual. Whoever wants to enter that land of the fourth dimension, in those Jina valleys, mountains, and temples, in that kingdom of the twice-born, must work with the rough stone, chisel it, give it shape, as we would say in Masonic language. We respectfully need to lift that marvelous stone which separates us from the land of the 1001 nights, from the land of marvels where the twice-born live happily. It is impossible to roll the stone, lift it, if we have first not given it a cubic shape with the chisel and the hammer. Peter, the disciple of Jesus Christ, is the Aladdin, the marvelous interpreter, authorized to lift the stone that closes the sanctuary of the great mysteries. Peter's original name is Petar, with its 3 consonants P, T, and R, which are radical.
P comes to remind us of the Father who is in secrecy, of the fathers of the gods, our fathers or Fitaras. T is the Tao, the divine hermaphrodite, the man and woman sexually united during the act. R is this letter is vital in the Inri. It is the sacred and terribly divine fire, the Egyptian Ra. Peter, Petar, the illuminator, is the master of sexual magic, the generous master who always awaits us at the entrance of the terrible path. The religious cow, the famous Cretan minotaur, is the first thing that we find in the mystical subterranean tunnel which leads to the earth of the twice-born. The philosopher's stone of the old medieval alchemists is sex, and the second birth is sexual. Chapter 8 of the Laws of Manu says, "A kingdom inhabited above all by Shudras, full of impious men and deprived of twice-born inhabitants, will totally perish rapidly, attacked by hunger and disease." Without Peter's doctrine, the second birth is impossible. We Gnostics study the doctrine of Peter. Infrasexuals, degenerate persons, mortally hate the doctrine of Peter. Many are the sincerely mistaken ones who believe that they can attain self-realization by excluding sex. Many are those who speak against sex, those who insult sex, those who spit their entire defamatory dribble in the sacred sanctuary of the third logos. Those who hate sex, those who say that sex is gross, unworldly, animal, bestial, are the insulters, those who blaspheme against the Holy Spirit. Whoever pronounces himself against sexual magic, whoever spits his infamy in the sanctuary of the third logos, will never be able to attain the second birth. The name of sexual magic in Sanskrit is Maithuna. Peter's doctrine is the Maithuna, and Jesus said, "Thou art Peter, rock, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." The key of the Maithuna is the black lingarn inserted in the yoni, attributes of the god Shiva, the third logos, the Holy Spirit. In the Maithuna, the phallus should enter the vagina, but the semen should never be ejaculated or spilled. The couple should withdraw from the sexual act before reaching the spasm in order to avoid the spilling of the seminal liquid. Restrained desire will transmute the seminal liquid into creative energy. The sexual energy ascends up to the cerebrum. This is how the cerebrum is seminized. This is how the semen becomes cerebrized. The Maithuna is the exercise that permits us to awaken and develop the Kundalini, the igneous serpent of our magical powers. When the Kundalini awakens, it ascends along the medullary canal of the spinal column. The Kundalini opens the 7 churches of the Apocalypse of St. John. The 7 churches are situated on the spinal column. The first church is Ephesus and corresponds to the sexual organs. The sacred serpent, coiled 3.5 times, sleeps within the church of Ephesus. The second church is Smyrna, located at the level of the prostate, and confers upon us the power over the waters. The third church is Pergamos, located at the level of the navel, and confers upon us the power of the fire. The fourth church is Thyatira, located at the level of the heart, and confers upon us the power over the air, and many powers, such as voluntary unfoldment, that of the jinas, etc. The fifth church is Sardis, located at the level of the creative larynx, and confers upon us the power of the magical ear, which permits us to listen to the voices of the superior worlds and the music of the spheres. The sixth church is Philadelphia, and is located at the point between the eyebrows, and confers upon us the power to see the internal worlds and the creatures that inhabit them. The seventh church is Laodicea. This marvelous church is the 1,000-petaled lotus located in the pineal gland, on the superior part of the cerebrum. Laodicea confers upon us the powers of polyvision, with which we can study all the mysteries of the great day and the great night. The sacred fire of the Kundalini opens the 7 churches in a successive order as it slowly ascends along the spinal canal. The igneous serpent of our magical powers ascends very slowly according to the merits of the heart. When they make contact in the tribani, near the coccyx, at the base of the spinal column, the solar and lunar forces of the sexual energy have the power of awakening the sacred serpent in order for it to ascend along the spinal canal. The sacred fire ascending along the spinal column has the form of a serpent. The sacred fire has 7 degrees of power. It is urgent to work with the 7 degrees of the power of fire. Sex in itself is the 9th sphere. The descent to the 9th sphere was, in the ancient mysteries, the maximum test of the supreme dignity of the Hierophant. Buddha, Jesus the Great Kabir, Hermes, Zoroaster, Muhammad, Dante, etc., etc., etc. The key of the Mithuna is the black lingarn inserted in the yoni, attributes of the god Shiva, the third Logos, the Holy Spirit. In the Mithuna, the phallus should enter the vagina, but the semen should never be ejaculated or spilled. The couple should withdraw from the sexual act before reaching the spasm in order to avoid the spilling of the seminal liquid. Restrained desire will transmute the seminal liquid into creative energy. The sexual energy ascends up to the cerebrum. This is how the cerebrum is seminized. This is how the semen becomes cerebrized. The Mithuna is the exercise that permits us to awaken and develop the Kundalini, the igneous serpent of our magical powers. When the Kundalini awakens, it ascends along the medullary canal of the spinal column. The Kundalini opens the 7 churches of the Apocalypse of St. John. The 7 churches are situated on the spinal column. The first church is Ephesus and corresponds to the sexual organs. The sacred serpent, coiled 3.5 times, sleeps within the church of Ephesus. The second church is Smyrna, located at the level of the prostate, and confers upon us the power over the waters. The third church is Pergamos, located at the level of the navel, and confers upon us the power of the fire. The fourth church is Thyatira, located at the level of the heart, and confers upon us the power over the air, and many powers, such as voluntary unfoldment, that of the jinas, etc. The fifth church is Sardis, located at the level of the creative larynx, and confers upon us the power of the magical ear, which permits us to listen to the voices of the superior worlds and the music of the spheres. The sixth church is Philadelphia, and is located at the point between the eyebrows, and confers upon us the power to see the internal worlds and the creatures that inhabit them. The seventh church is Laodicea. This marvelous church is the 1,000-petaled lotus located in the pineal gland, on the superior part of the cerebrum. Laodicea confers upon us the powers of polyvision, with which we can study all the mysteries of the great day and the great night. The sacred fire of the Kundalini opens the 7 churches in a successive order as it slowly ascends along the spinal canal. The igneous serpent of our magical powers ascends very slowly according to the merits of the heart. When they make contact in the tribani, near the coccyx, at the base of the spinal column, the solar and lunar forces of the sexual energy have the power of awakening the sacred serpent in order for it to ascend along the spinal canal. The sacred fire ascending along the spinal column has the form of a serpent. The sacred fire has 7 degrees of power. It is urgent to work with the 7 degrees of the power of fire. Sex in itself is the 9th sphere. The descent to the 9th sphere was, in the ancient mysteries, the maximum test of the supreme dignity of the Hierophant. Buddha, Jesus the Great Kabir, Hermes, Zoroaster, Muhammad, Dante, etc., etc., etc. From Geber, to the enigmatic and powerful Count Cagliostro, who transmuted lead into gold and fabricated diamonds of the best quality, there existed a long series of alchemists and investigators of the philosopher's stone, sex. Obviously, it is quite clear that only those sages who dissolved the lunar ego and despised the vanities of this world had true success in their inquiries. Among all of those victorious alchemists and adepts who worked in the laboratory of sexual alchemy, Basil Valentine, Ripley, Bacon, Honks Roger, etc. stood out. Nicholas Flamel is still very debated. Some suppose that he did not attain the difficult goal during his life, since he refused to reveal his secret to the king. He ended his days locked up in the terrible Bastille. Frankly, we are convinced that Nicholas Flamel, the great alchemist, succeeded in transmuting all the lead of his personality into the marvelous gold of the spirit. Trevisan, the famous Trevisan, spent his entire fortune seeking the philosopher's stone and managed to discover the secret at the age of 75 years, already too late. The philosopher's stone is sex, and the secret is the Maituna, sexual magic. But the poor Trevisan, in spite of possessing a formidable intelligence, only managed to discover the secret in his old age. Paracelsus, the disciple of Trithemius, great alchemist and doctor, knew the secret of the philosopher's stone, transmuted lead into gold, and carried out surprising cures. Many suppose that Paracelsus died a violent death, by assassination or suicide, for having revealed a part of the mysteries, but the reality is that Paracelsus disappeared without anyone knowing how or why. All of us know that Paracelsus acquired that which is called the elixir of long life, and that with said marvelous elixir he still sustains himself. He lives with the same physical body that he had in the Middle Ages. Schrepfer and Lavater practiced certain two very dangerous magical rites, which caused them a violent death without having attained in-depth self-realization. The famous Dr. J.D. sought the philosopher's stone and never found it, but he was reduced to the most frightening misery. In the final years of his life, the poor doctor horribly degenerated with mediumship and became a toy of the inferior entities that live in the molecular world. Sutton was imprisoned for refusing to reveal the secret of the philosopher's stone. Dr. Pryse of the Royal Society of London succeeded in transmuting physical lead into material gold, but on wanting to repeat the experiment before his colleagues, he failed, and then, ashamed and desperate, he committed suicide. Delisle, the great Delisle, for the same reasons was imprisoned, and upon trying to escape from the horrible dungeon where he was imprisoned, was killed by the guards. All these failures and hundreds of others reveal that the true practical occultism and its terrible magical powers demand the most frightening sanctity, without which it is impossible to face the dangers of alchemy and magic. To speak of sanctity in these times is something very difficult, because the world is full of stupidly sanctimonious persons who presume to be saints. The great master of strength named Mona, conversing with us in Oriental Tibet, told us, "To become united with the inner is very difficult. Out of two who attempt to unite themselves with the inner self, merely one achieves, because, as the poet Guillermo Valencia said, among the rhythms of the verse, crime is also hidden." Crime garbs itself as a saint, martyr, apostle. Millions of persons who are fans of occultist literature presume of holiness. They do not eat meat, or smoke, or drink, but at home they fight with their spouse, they beat their children, fornicate, commit adultery, they do not pay their debts, they promise and do not fulfill, etc., etc., etc. In the physical world, many persons have reached absolute chastity, but when these persons are subjected to the test in the internal worlds, they then end up being frighteningly fornicating. Many are the devotees of the path who in the physical world would never drink a cup of wine, but in the internal worlds they are lost drunkards when they were subjected to the test. Many are the devotees of the path who in the physical world are humble sheep, but subjected to the test in the internal worlds, they result being tigers. Many are the devotees of the path who do not covet money, but covet psychic powers. There are many devotees of the path in the world whose humility astonishes others. They can calmly sleep on the floor at the door of a rich man and are content with the crumbs that fall from the master's table, but they are proud of possessing many virtues or boast of their humility. Many people have aspired to sanctity when they found out that authentic cases of true saints do exist. Many are those who envy the holiness of others, and due to this also want to be saints. Many individuals do not work in the dissolution of the lunar ego because of pure mental laziness. Innumerable aspirants to the light eat 3 banquets daily. They are terribly gluttonous. Many do not murmur with their lips, but they murmur with their mind, and yet they believe that they never murmur. Rare are the aspirants who know how to obey the Father who is in secret. Wanting to tell the truth, almost all students of occultism lie. They have a deceitful tongue. They affirm that they have not experienced, and that is a lie. Nowadays, it is very common to bear false witness, and many students of occultism do so without knowing that they commit a crime. Vanity also dresses in rags, and many are the aspirants who dress poorly and walk the streets in total untidiness, but vanity can also be seen through the holes of their clothes. Innumerable aspirants have not been able to abandon self-esteem. They love themselves too much, and they suffer the unutterable when someone snubs them. A multitude of aspirants are full of ill thoughts. They have not been able to control their mind, and yet they believe that they are doing very well. Innumerable pseudo-esotericists and pseudo-occultists, if they are not avaricious with money, are then avaricious with the teachings. They have not been able to transcend avarice. Thousands of aspirants carry worldliness in themselves, even when they never attend a dance or party. Many devotees of the path have not been able to abandon stealing. They steal books. They go into esoteric schools to steal something, even when it is theories, secrets. They fake loyalty while they fulfill their job of stealing, and then they do not return. Innumerable devotees say bad words. Some only pronounce them mentally, even when their lips speak sweetness. Many virtuous persons are cruel with people. We knew the case of a virtuous man who hurt with mean phrases a wretched person who composed a verse for him. The unfortunate man was hungry, and since he was a poet, he composed a verse for the virtuous man with the purpose of obtaining a coin. The response was serious. Presuming of modesty and humility, the virtuous man insulted the hungry man. A multitude of aspirants to the light are offended and cruelly humiliated by the preceptors of certain schools. Many are the persons who would be capable of everything in life except killing someone. But they kill with their ironies, with their evil actions, with wounding laughter, with a harsh word. Many are the husbands who have killed their wives with their evil actions, with their bad conduct, with their horrible jealousies, ingratitude, etc. Many are the wives who have killed their husbands with their bad character, with stupid jealousies, with their inconsiderate demands, etc., etc., etc. We should not forget that every illness has psychic causes. Insults, irony, thunderous and offensive laughter, evil words serve to cause harm, illnesses, to assassinate, etc. Many parents would have lived a little longer if their children would have allowed them. Almost all human beings are matricides, parricides, fratricides, uxoricides, etc., etc. Pity is lacking in students of occultism. They are incapable of sacrificing themselves for their fellow men who suffer and cry. There is not true charity in thousands of aspirants. They presume of being charitable, but when we call on them to struggle for a new social order, they flee terrified, or they justify themselves saying that the law of karma and evolution will resolve everything. Cruel and merciless are the aspirants to the light. They say that they love, but they do not. They preach charity, but do not practice it. The sign of Sagittarius invites us to reflect on all of this. Sagittarius is symbolized by a man who holds an arrow in one hand, half horse, half man. The horse represents the animal ego, the pluralized I garbed with its lunar bodies. The I is not something individual. The I does not have any individuality. The I is plural. The lunar ego is constituted by a sum of small I's. Each psychological defect is personified by a small I. The entirety of all of our defects is represented by the pluralized I. The most serious problem that everyone who attains the second birth has to solve is that of the dissolution of the lunar ego. The newborn master is garbed with his solar bodies, but his ego is garbed with the lunar bodies.
Chapter 10. Capricorn. The being, the inner self, the monad, has two souls. The first is the spiritual soul. The second is the human soul. The former is Dante's Beatrice, beautiful Helen, the Shulamite of the wise Solomon, the ineffable, adorable wife, the booty of theosophy. The latter is the human soul, the causal principle, the noble husband, the superior manas of theosophy. Even when it may seem rare and strange, while the human soul works, the spiritual soul plays. Adam and Eve integrate within the monad, and its Kabbalic value is 10, which reminds us of the I-O, in other words, of the vowels E-E-E, O-O-O. The very sacred union of the eternal masculine with the eternal feminine, the integration of the opposites within the essential and divine monad. The divine triad, Atman Buddhi Manas, the being, we have said and we repeat, is not born, neither does he die, nor reincarnate in the arm-in-the-mill intellectual animals. We can and should affirm beyond all doubt that only a fraction of the human soul lives inside the lunar bodies. The latter is the essence, the psychic material to elaborate a soul, to develop the human soul, and thereby the spiritual soul. The monad, the being, creates, fabricates, develops his two souls, and the latter should serve and obey him. We should distinguish between monads and souls. A monad, in other words, a spirit is. A soul is possessed. Distinguish between the monad of a world and the soul of a world, between the monad of a man and the soul of a man, between the monad of an ant and the soul of an ant. The human organism, in final synthesis, is constituted by billions and trillions of infinitesimal monads. There are several types and orders of primary elements of every existence, of every organism, in the manner of germs of all the phenomena of nature. We can call the latter monads, employing the term of Leibniz, in the absence of a more descriptive term to indicate the simplicity of the most simple existence. An atom, as a vehicle of action, corresponds to each of these germs or monads. The monads attract each other, combine, transform themselves, giving form to every organism, world, microorganism, etc. Hierarchies exist among the monads. The inferior monads must obey the superior ones, that is, the law. Inferior monads belong to the superior ones. All the trillions of monads that animate the human organism have to obey the owner, the chief, the principal monad. The regulating monad, the primordial monad, permits the activity of all its subordinates inside the human organism until the time indicated by the law of karma. When the billions or trillions of monads or vital germs abandon the physical body, death is then inevitable. The monads in themselves are indestructible. They abandon their old connections in order to briefly carry out other new ones. The return to this world, the re-entry, re-embodiment, would be impossible without the work of the monads. They reconstruct new cells with their perceptions and sensations. They reconstruct new organisms. When the primordial monad is totally developed, it can afford to utilize its trillions of monads to create a world, a sun, a comet, and thus become a regulating monad of any star, but that is already something of God's. The monads, or vital germs, are not exclusive of the physical organism.
Within the atoms of the internal bodies are found imprisoned many orders and categories of living monads. The existence of any physical or suprasensible, angelic or diabolic, solar or lunar body has billions and trillions of monads as a foundation. The ego lunar in itself is a composite of atoms of the secret enemy. Unfortunately, the monads or vital germs are prisoners inside such atoms. Now we will comprehend why the occult science says the devil is God in reverse. To each atom corresponds a vital germ, a monad. All the infinite modifications, all the innumerable transformations are the result of the varied combinations of the monads. Nature deposits in the three cerebrums of the human being a certain capital of vital values. When the latter are exhausted, death is inevitable. The three cerebrums are 1. The intellectual center, 2. The emotional center, 3. The motor center. After the death of the physical body, the ego, garbed with its lunar bodies, continues in the molecular world. Those animals were the different parts or entities of the pluralized I of the original men. Those entities that were eliminated from their internal nature and due to the protoplasmic state of the earth of that epoch, marched toward the present physical crystallization. Those polar and hyperborean men had the need to eliminate those animal entities, that pluralized I, in order to become true men, solar men. Some subjects are so animal-like that if all that they have that is animal-like was to be removed from them, nothing would remain. Saturn is the planet of death and becomes exalted in Capricorn. This sign is symbolized by a small goat, as if to remind us of the goat skin, of the intellectual animals with goat skin, of the need to eliminate what we have that is animal-like in us, the animal entities that we carry within. The stone of Capricorn is the black onyx, and every black stone in general. The metal is lead, and its day is Saturday. On Saturday, the witches of the Middle Ages celebrated their horrible witches' Sabbath. But Saturday is the seventh day, which is so sacred for the Jews. Saturn is life and death. The path of life is formed by the tracks of the hooves of the horse of death. The magnetic currents that ascend from the earth afterwards become divine. The magnetic currents that ascend from the earth after passing through the sieves of the feet continue along the calves, and when they arrive at the knees, they become charged with the lead of Saturn, thus acquiring solidity, form, strength. We are not talking about lead in its gross state. We are talking about lead in a subtle, colloidal state. The knees possess a marvelous substance which permits them the free movement of such a simple and marvelous osseous machinery. That substance is the famous synovia, which comes from the root syn, that means with, and ovia, egg. Altogether a substance with egg. The egg is very much utilized in the genus science, and we have already talked about this in the second edition of the Esoteric Treatise of Theurgy. The exercise of Capricorn. During the sign of Capricorn, imagine a coffin on the ground. Walk over that imaginary coffin, but imagining it in the middle of the legs. When you walk, you will bend the knees as if to jump over the obstacle, as if to pass the legs over the coffin, but causing the knees to spin from right to left, with the mind concentrated on them, having the firm intention for them to become charged with the lead of Saturn. Masonic masters will be able to understand this exercise of Saturn very well, because they are the same steps of the master mason when entering the lodge. The natives of Capricorn have a disposition for pedagogy. They suffer a lot. They have a great sense of duty. They are practical by nature and always go through great suffering in their life. Someone betrays them. The women of Capricorn are magnificent wives, faithful to the death, industrious, hard workers, patient to the maximum. But in spite of all those virtues, the husband betrays them, abandons them, and often against their own will. Unfortunately, that is their karma. Some women of Capricorn get involved with other men, but this is only after already being abandoned by the husband and after having suffered frightfully. The men and women of Capricorn are quite egotistical, although not all of them. We are referring to the inferior type of Capricorn. Due to this, to that egotism, they make many commitments and also garner enemies for themselves. The natives of Capricorn become very attached to things, to money, and some even become very avaricious. Capricorn is an earth sign, fixed, stable. However, the natives of Capricorn carry out many journeys, even if they are short. The moral pains of Capricornians are terrible. They suffer too much. Fortunately, their practical sense of life saves them, and very soon they overcome the worst bitterness of life. However, every reward, every capital, becomes exhausted. When the Dharma of happiness is exhausted, the return to a new womb is then inevitable. The essence loses the ecstasy, attracted by the lunar ego, and already bottled up once again inside the lunar bodies, returns to a new womb. The instant in which the essence loses the ecstasy is that in which it once again separates from its inner Buddha to remain bottled up in the lunar bodies and the pluralized I. The return to a new womb is carried out in accordance with the law of karma. The ego continues in the descendants of its past or past lives. The monads of its past physical body have the power of reuniting atoms, molecules, and of reconstructing cells and organs. In this manner, we return to this cellular world, garbed with a new physical body. The poor intellectual animal begins his life in this world as a simple germinal cell, subject to the swift time of the cells, and ends after about 80 years or more, loaded with memories and experiences of every kind. It is urgent to know that a certain selection also occurs in the process of re-entry or return. The eye is a sum of small eyes, and not all of those eyes return to a new human organism. The eye is a sum of different, diverse entities without an order of any type, and not all of those entities return to a new human organism. Many of those entities re-embody in bodies of horses, dogs, cats, pigs, etc., etc., etc. On a certain occasion, when Master Pythagoras was walking with a friend of his, the latter hit a dog. The master scolded him, saying, "Do not hit him, for in his painful bark I have recognized the voice of an old friend who died." It is clear that upon arriving at this part of our present chapter, the fanatics of the dogma of evolution will launch against us all their defamatory dribble, and will protest, saying, "The ego cannot retrogress, everything evolves, everything should reach perfection, etc., etc., etc." Those fanatics ignore that the ego is a sum of small animal I, and that like attracts like. Those fanatics ignore that the ego does not have anything that is divine. It is a sum of animal entities that the law of evolution will never be able to take to perfection. The animal entities have the full right to enter animal wombs of dogs, horses, pigs, etc., 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 and that cannot be prohibited by the fanatics of the dogma of evolution, even if they yell, curse, and fume. This is the doctrine of the metamorphosis or metempsychosis of Pythagoras, and is founded on the same laws of nature. In the Golden Ass of Apuleius, we find this doctrine of Pythagoras totally documented. Apuleius says that in the Thessaly of witchcraft, the rocks were nothing but petrified men, the birds men with wings, the trees men with foliage, the fountains human bodies that bled clear lymph. This is an admirable symbolic way to represent the doubtless fact for every occultist that the different entities that constitute the pluralized I can become re-embodied in the organisms of beasts, or enter the mineral, vegetable kingdom, etc., etc., etc. With just reason, Christian mystics speak with love about the sister plant, the brother wolf, the sister rock. Rudolf Steiner, the German initiate, says that only man existed in the polar era, and animals existed later. They were inside man. They were eliminated by man.
Nowadays, in these times of perversity and crude atheistic materialism, a portion of the disembodied join the submerged mineral kingdom, the infernal worlds, after the judgment. Also, many are the millions who enter a new womb in an immediate manner without having had a good vacation in the superior worlds. Certainly, the selection process exists in all of nature, and few are those who achieve intermediate liberation and the relative Buddhic state. The disembodied join eternity under the influences of the moon and exit eternity through the doors of the moon. We have already seen in the lesson of Cancer that the entire life of all persons is processed under the influences of the moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, with life closing with a lunar finale. Really, the moon takes us, and the moon brings us, and the 7 types of planetary vibrations, in their indicated classical order, also repeat themselves after death, for as it is above, so is it below. The essences, who after having been judged, have the right to intermediate liberation and the relative Buddhic state, need a certain type of very special ecstasy and constant right effort in order to become unbottled, to escape from the lunar bodies and the ego. Fortunately, different groups of masters assist the disembodied and help them in this work with the rays of grace. In the same manner that republics, kingdoms, presidents, kings, governors, etc. exist in this cellular world in which we live, likewise in the molecular world there are many paradises, regions, and kingdoms where the essences enjoy indescribable states of happiness. The disembodied ones can enter kingdoms of paradisic happiness such as that of dense concentration, the kingdom of long hair, Baprapani, or the unlimited vihara of the lotus radiation, Padma Sambhava. The disembodied ones who march towards the intermediate liberation should help themselves by concentrating the mind on any of the kingdoms of the molecular world. It is really very painful to wander from life to life, to roam through the horrible sewer of samsara without enjoying the Buddhic state and the intermediate liberation. There are kingdoms of inconceivable happiness that the disembodied one should make the effort to enter. Let us remember the blissful kingdom of the West, governed by Amitabha Buddha. Let us remember Maitreya's kingdom, the heavens of Tushita, that kingdom of supreme bliss which the disembodied ones who are headed towards the electronic world can also enter. The disembodied ones should pray a lot to the Great Compassionate One and His Divine Triad, firm in their purposes, without allowing themselves to be deviated by anything, if they truly do not want to fall into a new womb without having enjoyed the intermediate Buddhic state in the world of free electrons. Happiness in the electronic regions, the intermediate liberation after having passed through the molecular paradises, is something that is impossible to describe with human words. The Buddhas travel through the inalterable infinite among the indescribable symphonies of the worlds which throb within the bosom of Mother Space. Happened, for in that moment the entire samsara, phenomenal universe, will be in revolution. The Kabbalic value of the ego is 56. This is the number of Typhon, the mind without spirituality.
The ego carries away its worldliness beyond the sepulchre of the physical body, and the retrospective vision of the life that just passed away is very terrible. After the great faint of 3.5 days, the deceased have to slowly relive in a retrospective manner the entire life that just passed. The time concept is something very important in the work of the retrospective vision of samsara, the life that just passed, or retrospective vision of samsara. In the infernal worlds, all timescales are mineral, frightfully slow, and oscillate between 80,000, 8,000, 800, and 80 years. In this cellular region in which we live, gestation lasts 10 lunar months, infancy 100 lunar months, life more or less 1,000 lunar months. In the molecular world, events can be measured with the time scale that goes from 1 month to 40 minutes. In the electronic world, the time scale oscillates between 40 minutes and 2.5 seconds. The retrospective vision of samsara, the life that just passed, in the instant of death and during the subsequent 3.5 days, is of an electronic type, and that is why each event can be measured with the electronic time measurement. The retrospective vision of samsara in the molecular world is slower, and that is why each event is measured with the molecular time measurement. The inner self, the monad, the being with its 2 souls, before we were born in this valley of tears, dwells in the Milky Way, and even during the life of the physical body here below, continues living in the stars. The fundamental thing for the essence after death is to attain the relative Buddhic state and the intermediate liberation. This is only possible for the soul embryo that we have within by climbing, ascending to the electronic world. It is urgent to know that our divine immortal triad, our being, our Buddha, lives in the electronic world. To unite with the immortal triad after death, to be one with it, in fact means to have become a relative Buddha, to have achieved intermediate liberation, and to enjoy a beautiful vacation before returning to a new human organism. If the clear primordial light has been properly recognized at the supreme moment of death by the deceased, it is a sign that he has achieved intermediate liberation. If the deceased only perceives the secondary clear light at the supreme moment of death, it is a sign that he will have to struggle much to reach the relative Buddhic state. The difficult thing for the essence is to become unbottled, to escape from its prison, to come out of the lunar bodies, to abandon the pluralized I. Each person's karma is definitive in this matter. When the deceased has relived the entire life that just passed in a retrospective manner, he then has to appear before the tribunals of karma in order to be judged. The legend of Zoroaster says, "Everyone whose good deeds exceeds his sin by 3 grams goes to heaven. Everyone whose sin is greater goes to hell, while he in whom they are equal remains in hamistikon until the future body or resurrection." 3 things go to the cemetery, to the sepulchre. 1. The physical body. 2. The vital body. 3. The personality. The vital body floats near the sepulchre and disintegrates as the physical body disintegrates, as its monads become liberated. The personality is inside the sepulchre, but it comes out when someone takes flowers, when a mourner visits it. It ambulates in the cemetery and returns to the sepulchre. The personality has a beginning and an end. It slowly disintegrates in the cemetery. Proserpine, the queen of the infernos, is also Hecate, the blessed goddess Mother Death, under whose direction work the angels of death. Mother Space, converted into Mother Death, dearly loves her children, and that is why she takes them away. The angels of death, when they are working, wear their funeral suits. They assume a spectral figure, they clutch the scythe, and with it cut the silver cord that connects the internal bodies to the physical body. The angels of death cut the cord of life and take the ego out of the physical body. The angels of death are very wise, and they develop and unfold under the ray of Saturn. The angels of death do not only know what is related with the run-of-the-mill death of the physical body. These ministers of death are moreover profoundly wise in everything related with the death of the pluralized I. After the death of the body, the disembodied one falls into a fainting fit which lasts 3.5 days. The Tibetan Book of the Dead says, "You have been in a faint during the last 3.5 days. As soon as you recover from this faint, you will have the thought, 'What has happened?' For in that moment the entire samsara, phenomenal universe, will be in revolution." The Kabbalistic value of the ego is 56. This is the number of Typhon, the mind without spirituality. The ego carries away its worldliness beyond the sepulchre of the physical body, and the retrospective vision of the life that just passed away is very terrible. After the great faint of 3.5 days, the deceased have to slowly relive in a retrospective manner the entire life that just passed away. The time concept is something very important in the work of the retrospective vision of the life that just passed, or retrospective vision of samsara. In the infernal worlds, all timescales are mineral, frightfully slow, and oscillate between 80,000, 8,000, 800, and 80 years. In this cellular region in which we live, gestation lasts 10 lunar months, infancy 100 lunar months, life more or less 1,000 lunar months. In the molecular world, events can be measured with the timescale that goes from 1 month to 40 minutes. In the electronic world, the timescale oscillates between 40 minutes and 2.5 seconds. The retrospective vision of samsara, the life that just passed away, in the instant of death and during the subsequent 3.5 days, is of electronic type, and that is why each event can be measured with the electronic time measurement. The retrospective vision of samsara in the molecular world is slower, and that is why each event is measured with the molecular time measurement. The inner self, the monad, the being with its 2 souls, before we were born in this valley of tears, dwells in the Milky Way, and even during the life of the physical body, here below, continues living in the stars. The fundamental thing for the essence, after death, is to attain the relative Buddhic state and the intermediate liberation. This is only possible for the soul embryo that we have within by climbing, ascending to the electronic world. It is urgent to know that our divine immortal triad, our being, our Buddha, lives in the electronic world. To unite with the immortal triad after death, to be one with it in fact, means to have become a relative Buddha, to have achieved intermediate liberation, and to enjoy a beautiful vacation before returning to a new human organism. If the clear primordial light has been properly recognized at the supreme moment of death by the deceased, it is a clear sign that he has achieved intermediate liberation. If the deceased only perceives the secondary clear light at the supreme moment of death, it is a sign that he will have to struggle much to reach the relative Buddhic state. The difficult thing for the essence is to become unbottled, to escape from its prison, to come out of the lunar bodies, to abandon the pluralized I. Each person's karma is definitive in this matter. When the deceased has relived the entire life that just passed in a retrospective manner, he then has to appear before the tribunals of karma in order to be judged. The legend of Zoroaster says, "Everyone whose good deeds exceeds his sin by 3 grams goes to heaven. Everyone whose sin is greater goes to hell, while he, in whom they are equal, remains in the hamistikon until the future body or resurrection. Chapter 10. Capricorn. The being, the inner self, the monad, has two souls. The first is the spiritual soul. The second is the human soul. The former is Dante's Beatrice, beautiful Helen, the Shulamite of the wise Solomon, the ineffable, adorable wife, the Booty of theosophy. The latter is the human soul, the causal principle, the noble husband, the superior manas of theosophy. Even when it may seem rare and strange, while the human soul works, the spiritual soul plays. Adam and Eve integrate within the monad, and its Kabbalic value is 10, which reminds us of the I-O, in other words, of the vowels E-E-E, O-O-O. The very sacred union of the eternal masculine with the eternal feminine, the integration of the opposites within the essential and divine monad. The divine triad, Atman Buddhi Manas, the being, we have said and we repeat, is not born, neither does he die, nor reincarnate in the arm-in-the-mill intellectual animals. We can and should affirm beyond all doubt that only a fraction of the human soul lives inside the lunar bodies. The latter is the essence, the psychic material to elaborate a soul, to develop the human soul, and thereby the spiritual soul. The monad, the being, creates, fabricates, develops his two souls, and the latter should serve and obey him. We should distinguish between monads and souls. A monad, in other words, a spirit is. A soul is possessed. Distinguish between the monad of a world and the soul of a world, between the monad of a man and the soul of a man, between the monad of an ant and the soul of an ant. The human organism, in final synthesis, is constituted by billions and trillions of infinitesimal monads. There are several types and orders of primary elements of every existence, of every organism, in the manner of germs of all the phenomena of nature. We can call the latter monads, employing the term of Leibniz, in the absence of a more descriptive term to indicate the simplicity of the most simple existence. An atom, as a vehicle of action, corresponds to each of these germs or monads. The monads attract each other, combine, transform themselves, giving form to every organism, world, microorganism, etc. Hierarchies exist among the monads. The inferior monads must obey the superior ones, that is, the law. Inferior monads belong to the superior ones. All the trillions of monads that animate the human organism have to obey the owner, the chief, the principal monad. The regulating monad, the primordial monad, permits the activity of all its subordinates inside the human organism until the time indicated by the law of karma. When the billions or trillions of monads or vital germs abandon the physical body, death is then inevitable. The monads in themselves are indestructible. They abandon their old connections in order to briefly carry out other new ones. The return to this world, the re-entry, re-embodiment, would be impossible without the work of the monads. They reconstruct new cells with their perceptions and sensations. They reconstruct new organisms. When the primordial monad is totally developed, it can afford to utilize its trillions of monads to create a world, a sun, a comet, and thus become a regulating monad of any star, but that is already something of God's. The monads, or vital germs, are not exclusive of the physical organism. Within the atoms of the internal bodies are found imprisoned many orders and categories of living monads. The existence of any physical or suprasensible, angelic or diabolic, solar or lunar body has billions and trillions of monads as a foundation. The ego lunar in itself is a composite of atoms of the secret enemy. Unfortunately, the monads or vital germs are prisoners inside such atoms. Now we will comprehend why the occult science says the devil is God in reverse. To each atom corresponds a vital germ, a monad. All the infinite modifications, all the innumerable transformations are the result of the varied combinations of the monads. Nature deposits in the three cerebrums of the human being a certain capital of vital values. When the latter are exhausted, death is inevitable. The three cerebrums are 1. The intellectual center, 2. The emotional center, 3. The motor center. After the death of the physical body, the ego, garbed with its lunar bodies, continues in the molecular world. Chapter 11. Aquarius. The occult significance of Aquarius is knowledge. Aquarius, the sign of the water-bearer, is an eminently revolutionary sign. There are 4 types of knowledge, or secret science. We need to know what these 4 types of knowledge are. First, Yajnavidya. Knowledge that is acquired with certain occult powers awakened within our own inner nature through certain magical rituals. Second, Kabbalistic Mahavidya, the science of the Kabbalah with all its invocations, mathematical symbols, and liturgy, which can be angelic or diabolic. It all depends on the type of person that uses it. Third, Gupta Vidya, the science of mantrams, the magic of the verb. It is based on the mystical powers of sounds, on the science of harmony. Fourth, Atmavidya, or real wisdom of the being, of Atmyan, the superior monad. All forms of knowledge, except the fourth, are the root of all occult sciences. From all these forms of knowledge, of all of them except the fourth, come the Kabbalah, chiromancy, astrology, occult physiology, scientific cartomancy, etc., etc. From all those forms of knowledge, from all those occultist branches, science has already discovered a few secrets. But the developed spatial sense is not hypnotism, and neither can it be acquired through those arts. The present book of Esoteric Hermetic Astrology has nothing to do with the carnival astrology mentioned in newspapers. In this book, we teach the science of Atmavidya. The fundamental thing is Atmavidya. It includes all of them in their essential aspect, and can even use them occasionally, but it only utilizes their synthetic extracts, purified of all dross. The golden door of wisdom can transform itself into the wide door and broad path which leads to destruction, the door of magical arts practiced with egotistical ends. We are in the age of Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, the Black Age, and all the students of occultism are predisposed to becoming lost in the black path. It is astonishing to see the mistaken concept held by the little brothers regarding occultism and the ease with which they believe they can reach the door and cross the threshold of mystery without a great sacrifice. It is impossible to attain the Atmavidya without the 3 factors for the revolution of consciousness. The Atmavidya is impossible without having attained the second birth. The Atmavidya is impossible without the death of the pluralized I. The Atmavidya is impossible without sacrifice for humanity. It is not the law of evolution that confers the Atmavidya upon us. It is not the law of involution that confers the Atmavidya upon us. It is only on the basis of tremendous and frightening inner revolutions that we arrive at the Atmavidya. The path of the revolution of consciousness is the path of the razor's edge. This path is terribly difficult. This path is full of dangers, within and without. It is necessary to learn to intelligently combine the waters of life within the 2 amphoras of Aquarius, the zodiacal sign of the water-bearer. It is indispensable to combine the red elixir with the white elixir if one wants to attain the second birth. The moon symbolizes Isis, the Divine Mother. the ineffable Prakriti, and the bull Apis represents the philosophical matter, the sacred stone of the alchemist. In the bull Apis is represented the moon, Isis, the primordial substance, the philosopher's stone, the Maituna. Aquarius is governed by Uranus, and this planet controls the sexual glands. It is impossible to attain the second birth, adepthood, inner self-realization, if we do not study the mysteries of Isis, if we scorn the worship of the bull Apis, if we do not combine the red elixir with the white elixir within the two amphoras of Aquarius. In Christian terminology, the four human bodies are mentioned. The first is the flesh body, the second is the natural body, the third is the spiritual body, the fourth, according to the terminology of an esoteric Christian type, is the divine body. Speaking in theosophical language, we will say that the first is the physical body, the second is the astral body, the third is the mental body, the fourth is the causal body, or the body of conscious will. Our critics will become upset because we do not mention the lingam sarira, or vital body, also known as the etheric double. We certainly do not count such a body, due to the concrete fact that the latter is merely the superior section of the physical body, the fundamental basic center of all physical, chemical, caloric, reproductive, perceptual activities, etc. The run-of-the-mill intellectual animal is not born with the astral body, neither with the mental body, nor much less with the causal body. These bodies can only be artificially cultivated in the lit forge of Vulcan, or sex. The astral body is not an indispensable implement for the intellectual animal. It is a luxury, a great luxury that very few can afford. Nonetheless, the intellectual animal has a molecular body, a body of desires which is similar to the astral body, but is of a lunar type, cold, ghost-like, spectral. The intellectual animal does not have the mental body, but he possesses a subtle, lunar intellectual animal vehicle which is very similar to the mental body, but of a cold and ghost-like cold nature. The intellectual animal does not possess the causal body, or the body of conscious will, but he has the essence, the buddhata, the soul embryo, which is easily confused with the causal body. The subtle bodies that Leadbeater, Annie Besant, Steiner, and many other clairvoyants studied in the poor run-of-the-mill intellectual animal are the lunar vehicles. Whoever wants to attain the second birth should fabricate for himself the solar bodies, the authentic astral body, the legitimate mental body, the true causal body, or body of conscious will. There is something that can surprise Gnostic students. The astral, mental, and causal bodies are of flesh and blood, and after having been born from within the immaculate womb of the Divine Mother, they need to nourish them for their growth and development. There are two types of flesh. The first is flesh which comes from Adam. The second is flesh that does not come from Adam. The solar bodies are of flesh that does not come from Adam. It is interesting to know that the sexual hydrogen Si12 always crystallizes into flesh and blood. The physical body is of flesh and bones, and the solar bodies are also of flesh and blood. The basic food of the physical body is hydrogen-48. The fundamental food of the astral body is hydrogen-24. The indispensable food of the mental body is hydrogen-12. The vital food of the causal body is hydrogen-6. All the masters of the White Lodge, the angels, archangels, thrones, seraphim, virtues, etc., 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 are garbed with the solar bodies. Only those who have solar bodies have the being incarnated. Only someone who possesses the being is an authentic man. The physical body is controlled by 48 laws. The astral body is governed by 24 laws. The mental body is dominated by 12 laws. The causal body depends on 6 laws. It is urgent to descend to the lit forge of Vulcan, sex, in order to work with the fire and water, the origin of worlds, beasts, men, and gods. It is urgent to descend into the 9th sphere to fabricate the solar bodies and to attain the second birth. It causes pain to know that many who boast of being masters and saints are still garbed with the lunar bodies. Death. Count de Gabalis is totally mistaken when he says that the salamanders, gnomes, sylphs, nymphs need to become married with a man in order to become immortal. Count de Gabalis's affirmation is stupid when he says that we need total renunciation to women in order to dedicate ourselves to the immortalization of sylphs and nymphs. The elementals of the elements, of plants, minerals, animals, will be the men of the future without the need of the unworldly coitus recommended by Count de Gabalis. It is a pity that many mediums of spiritualism are married with elementals and that many persons cohabit during dreams with incubi, succubi, and elementals of every type. The internal worlds are full of all kinds of creatures, some good and others bad, others indifferent. The devas, or angels, are never inferior to man. The devas, or angels, are true solar men, and that is all. The devas, or angels, are twice born. For the Chinese, the 2 most elevated types of invisible inhabitants are the Tian of totally celestial nature and the Ti, Tu, or intermediaries. In the narrow passes of Kunlun, the central region of the earth, or lunar mountains, has placed an entire strange and mysterious world governed by gods. These divine beings are the Kohan, or Lohan, governing gods of millions of creatures. The Ti dress in yellow clothes and dwell in crypts or subterranean caverns. They feed on sesame, coriander, and other flowers and fruits of the tree of life. They are twice born. They study alchemy, occult botany, the philosopher's stone in the fashion of Master Zanoni and his wise companion, the great Majerno. A third type of invisible inhabitants are the famous Shen, or Sham, born here below in the sublunar world, whether it be to work for good or to pay their old ancestral karma. The fourth type of inhabitants of the internal worlds mentioned by the Chinese are the tenebrous Mahashan, giant sorcerers of black magic. The most rare and most incomprehensible are the terrible Marut, or Turam, beings mentioned by the Rig Veda, legions of Hanasmusens. This word is pronounced with an H in this manner, Hanasmusens. These legions are constituted by 343 families, although certain calculations raise the number to 823 or 543 families. It is lamentable that these Hanasmusens are adored by certain Muslims and Brahmins. Hanasmusens have, as we already said in Chapter 9 of this book, 2 personalities, one angelic and another diabolic. It is clear that the solar, angelic personality of a Hanasmusen never comes to instruct any candidate to initiation without first telling him with total frankness, "Be careful, we are the temptation that can convert you into an unfaithful." The solar personality of every Marut or Turam Hanasmusen knows very well that it possesses another lunar, diabolic, tenebrous personality, which is capable of leading astray the candidate to initiation. 2 paths open up before every twice born, that of the right and that of the left. The path of the right is the path of those who resolve to die from moment to moment, of those who dissolve the I. That of the left is the black path, the path of those who, instead of dying from moment to moment, instead of dissolving the I, fortify it within the lunar bodies. Those who tread the path of the left become Marut or Turam, in other words, Hanasmusens. Those who want to attain the final liberation should die from moment to moment. It is only by dying in oneself that we become perfect angels. 3 types of Tantrism exist: white, black, and gray. Maithuna with the ejaculation of the ens seminis is black. Maithuna with the ejaculation of the ens seminis sometimes, and sometimes without ejaculation, is gray. It is with Maithuna without ejaculation that Devi Kundalini ascends through the spinal canal to develop divine powers and transform us into angels. With Maithuna with ejaculation, the Agnya serpent of our magical powers, instead of ascending, descends, precipitates itself from the coccygeal bone towards the atomic infernos of man, becoming the tail of Satan. Maithuna with ejaculation, sometimes and sometimes without ejaculation, is something incoherent, morbid, bestial, which is only useful to fortify the lunar ego. Black Tantrists develop the abominable Kundartiguador organ. It is necessary to know that said fatal organ is the same tail of Satan. In times which become lost in the profound night of all ages, the poor intellectual animal comprehended his sad situation of being a little machine which is necessary for nature's economy, and wished to die. The intervention of certain sacred individuals who committed the error of giving this unfortunate human swam the abominable Kundartiguador organ was then necessary. When the intellectual animal forgot his sad situation of being a little machine and fell in love with the beauties of this world, the abominable Kundartiguador organ was eliminated. Unfortunately, the bad consequences of said organ was something which could not be forgotten. They remained deposited in the 5 cylinders of the machine. The first cylinder is that of the intellect and is located in the cerebrum. The second is that of the emotions and resides in the solar plexus at the level of the navel. The third is that of movement and resides in the superior part of the spinal column. The fourth is that of the instincts and is located in the inferior part of the spinal column. And the fifth is that of sex and resides in the sexual organs. The evil consequences of the abominable Kundartiguador organ are represented by thousands and millions of small eye of an animal-like and perverse nature. In the intellectual animal, there is neither a single command center nor an I or permanent ego. Each idea, each sentiment, each sensation, each desire, I desire this, I desire such and such a thing, I love, I do not love, is a different I. All these small and quarrelsome I argue among themselves. They fight for supremacy. They are not connected among themselves, nor coordinated in any way whatsoever. Each of these small I's depends on the changes of circumstances of life and on the changes of impressions. Each small I has its own ideas, its own criteria. True individuality does not exist in the poor intellectual animal. His concept, actions, ideas depend on the I which dominates the situation in those moments. When an I becomes enthusiastic with Gnosis, it swears eternal loyalty to our Gnosis movement. This enthusiasm lasts until another I, which is against these studies, takes over power. We then see with astonishment that the subject leaves and even becomes our enemy. The I which today swears eternal love to a woman is later displaced by another I which has nothing to do with the promise, and then the woman suffers deception. Such an I automatically follows another I, and some appear to always be accompanied by others, but there is not any order or system among all of those I's. Each of those I's believes itself to be everything at a given moment, but it is really nothing more than the worst part of our functions, even when it has the impression of being the totality, the reality,
the complete man. The interesting thing is that we give credit to the eye of a moment, even when that eye is displaced by another eye moments later. The lunar ego is a sum of eyes that should be eliminated in a radical manner. It is necessary to know that each of the 5 cylinders of the machine possesses its own characteristics, which we should never confuse. There is a difference in velocity among the 5 centers of the machine. People lavishly praise thinking, but in reality of truth, the intellectual center is the slowest. Afterwards, operating much faster, follow the instinctive and movement or motor centers, which have more or less the same velocity. The fastest is the sexual center, and is followed in order of speed by the emotional center. There is an enormous difference in speed between each of the 5 centers of the machine. By studying ourselves, by observing ourselves, we will see at a simple glance that movement is faster than thought, and that emotion is faster than any movement and thought.
To know the activity of the 5 cylinders of the machine in all the 49 passageways or subconscious regions of Yaldabaoth means to know oneself, to make conscious the subconscious, to auto-discover ourselves. Whoever wants to ascend should first descend. Whoever wants the Atma Vidya should first descend into his own atomic infernos. The error of many students of occultism is to want to first ascend without first having descended. In interaction with people, our defects spontaneously appear, and if we are alert, we discover what center they proceed from. Then, by means of meditation, we will discover them in each and every one of the 49 subconscious regions. It is only by means of the I dying in a total manner that we attain the Atma Vidya, absolute enlightenment. Sacrifice. Sattvic sacrifice is done in accordance with the divine commandments, concentrating on the worship, only for the worship, by men who do not desire results. Rajasic sacrifice is done out of temptation and desiring the fruits. Tamasic sacrifice is always done against the commandments, without faith, without the mantrams, without charity towards anyone, without love for humanity, without offering the sacred offering to the priests or gurus, etc., etc., etc. The third factor for the revolution of consciousness is sacrifice, but sattvic sacrifice, without desiring the fruits of action, without desiring reward, pure, sincere, disinterested sacrifice, giving one's life in order for others to live, and without asking for anything as reward. The reader should once again study the lesson of Virgo, chapter 6, in order for him to properly comprehend what the 3 gunas of the Prakriti are, which are called Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The law of the solar logos is sacrifice. He crucifies himself at the dawning of life in every new world that surges forth from the chaos, in order for all beings to have life and have it in abundance. Everyone who has attained the second birth should sacrifice himself for humanity, should properly raise the torch on high in order to teach others the path that leads to light. The one who sacrifices himself for humanity attains the Venusian initiation. It is urgent to know that the Venusian initiation is the incarnation of the Christ in man. The one who incarnates the Christ in himself has to live the entire cosmic drama. The Venusian initiation has 7 degrees. It begins with the event of Bethlehem and ends with the death and resurrection of the Lord. The one who reaches the Venusian initiation also becomes a Christ.
It is only by means of the three factors for the revolution of consciousness that one attains the Venusian initiation. Exercise. The sign of Aquarius governs the calves. Brazilians call the calves ventre de las piernas, womb of the legs, and they are not mistaken, for certainly the calves are a marvelous magnetic womb. The energies that rise from the earth, after passing through the bottom of the feet, reach the calves in their ascending path and meet there the energies that descend from above, from the sky of Uranus. The energies that ascend and those that descend, when they meet, magnetize the calves in an intense manner. That is why the latter are really charged with eroticism. Now we will understand why intellectual animals feel so attracted by the well-shaped calves of women. During the sign of Aquarius, male and female disciples should perform magnetic passes with their two hands over their calf, from below going upward, with the purpose of powerfully magnetizing the calves, with the vivid yearning of charging oneself with the extraordinary forces of the constellation of Aquarius. These magnetic passes should be combined with the following prayer. Prayer. Energy pass through, energy pass through, energy pass through. Penetrate my organism. Ascend to unite with your sister, the current that comes from above, from heaven, from Uranus. Uranus and Saturn are the planets that govern the constellation of Aquarius. Uranus is totally revolutionary, and it is clear that reactionary, conservative, regressive, and retardative persons cannot understand it. Among the minerals of Aquarius, uranium and lead stand out especially. The sapphire is the stone of Aquarius. So is the black pearl, which is certainly difficult, but not impossible to find. We cannot advise the women of Aquarius to ever marry a taurine man, because they will be unhappy their whole life. The natives of Aquarius have a great disposition for natural sciences, medicine, chemistry, botany, astrology, biology, etc., etc., etc. The natives of Aquarius are each revolutionary in their own way, in their life, customs, house, outside their house, etc., etc., etc. The natives of Aquarius stand out as paladins, some in a large scale, others in a small scale, but they all have a marked tendency to be paladins. Aquarius is the sign of the genius, where Saturn, the ancient of the heavens, provides the profundity that characterizes him, and Uranus, the revolutionary planet, casts its rays over the human species. The Aquarians of a superior type are altruistic, philanthropic, generous, faithful in friendship, sincere. They know how to select their friends by instinct. They know persons by intuition. And they always want fraternity, humanity. The Aquarian of an inferior type is distrustful by nature, the lover of exaggerated retreats, and his intelligence is only dedicated to things of the physical world, to his problems, his affairs, to everything that is of the senses and is material. The Aquarian of a superior type is precise in his affairs, concentrated, profound, marvelous. The women of Aquarius are good wives, good mothers, but they like to be out of the house, and this bothers the husbands a lot, especially if the latter are taurine. Chapter 12. Pisces. We have arrived at the mother night of Egyptian cosmology, the profound ocean of Pisces, the initiatic, limitless darkness of absolute abstract space, the first element of the abyss where the undines guard the Rhine gold or the fire of the divine and genetic thought. Pisces is wisely symbolized by two fish. The fish is the living symbol of primitive Gnostic Christianity. The two fish of Pisces, linked by a hyphen, have a profound Gnostic significance. They represent the two souls of the primordial Elohim submerged within the deep waters of Mother Night. We have already explained in previous chapters that the inner self, the being, Atman, has two souls, one feminine and the other masculine. We have already explained that the spiritual soul, Buddhi, is feminine. We have already said, and we repeat, that the human soul, superior Manas, is masculine. The sacred couple, the eternal divine matrimony, is always symbolized by two fish linked by a hyphen. The latter is the being, Atman. The sacred couple, the two eternal fish, work within the waters of the abyss when the aurora of the Mahamvantara arrives. The two ineffable fish work under the direction of Atman when the hour of the aurora of creation arrives. However, it is good to remember that Isis and Osiris could not ever work in the great work without the famous Mercury of secret philosophy. In this sexual Mercury lies the key to all power. A circle with a traversed vertical line in Hermetic symbolism is the very sacred union of the eternal feminine with the eternal masculine, the integration of the opposites in the ineffable and divine essential monad. The monad, the being, surges forth from within the great mother space. From within the great ocean rise the Elohim to work in the aurora of the Mahamvantara. Water is the feminine element of all creation, from which the Latin mater and the terribly divine letter M originate from. In Gnostic Christianity, Maria, Mary, is the same Isis, the mother of the cosmos, the eternal mother space, the profound waters of the abyss. The word Maria, Mary, is divided into two syllables. The first is Mar, which reminds us of the deep ocean of Pisces. The second is Aya, which is a variant of Eo, the august name of Mother Space, the circle of the nothingness from which everything emanates and everything returns, the one, the single one of the manifested universe after the night of the great pralaya, or annihilation. Once the superior waters were separated from the inferior waters, light was made. In other words, the animating verb of the cosmos surged forth into life, and this life took as transmitting element the sun, which is found at the center of our solar system, like the heart within our organism. The fecund vibrations of the sun are really the living elemental fire, which condenses in the center of each planet, constituting the heart of it. All that light, all that life is represented by the seven spirits before the throne within the heart temple of each of the seven planets of the solar system. The work of separating the waters from the waters corresponds to the sacred couple. Each of the seven spirits before the throne emanated from himself the sacred couple of fish in order for the couple to work in the aurora of creation with the power of Kriya Shakti, the power of the lost word, the power of the will and yoga. The love of loves, the mystical passion of the last fire within the eternal husband and the divine wife are vital in order to separate the superior waters from the inferior waters. Transcendental Maithuna, Kriya Shakti, creative verb, exists in this work. He provides the fire and she transmutes the waters, separating the superior from the inferior. The two fish then project that fire and that superior transmuted water upon the waters of the chaos, upon the cosmic matter or material for worlds, upon the sleeping germs of existence and life sprouts forth. The entire work is carried out with the help of the word, the will, and yoga. In the beginning, the universe is subtle. Afterwards, it condenses materially, going through successive periods of progressive crystallization. Millions of universes exist in infinite space within the bosom of Mother Space.
Some universes are coming out of the pralaya, surging forth from within the deep waters of Pisces. Others are in full activity. Others are dissolving within the eternal waters. Isis and Osiris could not do anything without the sexual Mercury. The two eternal fish love, adore each other, and live always creating again and again. The fish is the most sacred symbol of primitive Gnostic Christianity. It is a pity that thousands of students of occultism have forgotten the Gnosis of the fish. 7 humanities with physical bodies live on our planet Earth, and of all the 7, ours is the last, the only one that is a failure for having lost the Gnosis. The other 6 humanities live in the Jinnah state, in the 4th dimension, already in the interior of the Earth, already in many Jinnah regions and areas. The age of Pisces should not have been a failure as it really was. The causa causorum of the Piscean failure was due to certain tenebrous elements who betrayed Gnosis and preached certain agnostic or anti-Gnostic doctrines, underestimating the fish, discarding the religious wisdom, and sinking humanity into materialism. Let us remember Lucio arriving at the city of Hypatia and then staying in the house of Milone, whose wife Panphila was a perverse witch. A little later, Lucio goes out to buy fish, the ichthys, symbol of the nascent Gnostic Christianity, the fish, soma of the mysteries of Isis. The fishermen sell it for 20 wretched denarii, and with a certain frightful disdain, something that they previously tried to sell for 100 escudos, a terrible satire in which is enveloped the greatest despise for the nascent and already infatuated Gnostic Christianity. The result of the agnostic Christianity was the Marxist materialist dialectic. The reaction against agnosticism was the godless and lawless repugnant materialism. It can be affirmed that the age of Pisces failed due to agnosticism. The betrayal of Gnosis was the most serious crime of the age of Pisces. Jesus Christ and his 12 fishermen initiated an age that could well have been one of great splendors. Jesus and his 12 Gnostic apostles indicated the precise path for the age of Pisces. Gnosticism, the wisdom of the fish. It is a pity that all the sacred books of the sacred Gnosis were burned and the sacred symbol of the fish forgotten. Exercise. During the sign of Pisces, we have to vocalize 1 hour daily. Let us remember that in the beginning was the Verb, and that the Verb was with God, and that the Verb was God. In ancient times, the 7 vowels of nature resounded in the entire human organism, from head to toes, and it is now necessary to restore the 7 notes in the marvelous harp of our organism in order to restore the lost powers. The vowel I causes the pineal and pituitary glands to vibrate. These 2 small glands are united by a small, extremely subtle canal or capillary, which has already disappeared in cadavers. The pineal gland is located in the superior part of the cerebrum, and the pituitary gland in the cavernous plexus between the 2 eyebrows. Each of these 2 small glands has its vital aura, and when these 2 auras blend, the spatial sense is developed, and we see the ultra of all things. The vowel E causes the thyroid gland, which secretes the biological iodine, to vibrate. This gland is located in the throat, and in it resides the chakra of the magical ear. The vowel O causes the heart chakra, the center of intuition and all types of powers, to travel in the astral, genus state, etc., to vibrate. The vowel U causes the solar plexus, located in the umbilical region, to vibrate. This solar plexus is the telepathic center and the emotional cerebrum. The vowel A causes the pulmonary chakras, which permit us to remember our past lives, to vibrate.
The vowel M, profanely held as a consonant, is vocalized with the lips closed without opening the mouth, and the sound that then comes out through the nose is the M. The vowel M causes the ens seminis, the waters of life, the mercury of secret philosophy, to vibrate. The vowel S is a sweet and gentle hissing, which causes the fire inside of us to vibrate. Seated in a comfortable armchair, we have to vocalize I, E, O, U, A, M, S, carrying the sound of each of these 7 vowels from the head to the feet. It is necessary to inhale, then exhaling the air together with the well-prolonged vowel sound until exhausting the exhalation. This exercise has to be done daily in order to develop the internal magical powers. Pisces is governed by Neptune, the planet of practical occultism, and by thundering Jupiter, the father of the gods. The metal of Pisces is the tin of Jupiter. Its stones, the amethyst, the corals. Pisces governs the feet.
Usually, the natives of Pisces have 2 wives, several children. They are of a dual nature, and they have a disposition for 2 professions or trades. The natives of Pisces are very difficult to comprehend. They live like the fish, in everything, but separated from everything by the liquid element. They adapt to everything, but deep down they despise all the things of the world. They are exquisitely sensitive, intuitive, and profound, and people cannot comprehend them. The natives of Pisces have a great disposition for occultism, due to the fact that Pisces is governed by Neptune, the planet of esotericism. The women of Pisces are very nervous, sensitive like a very delicate flower, intuitive, impressionable. Pisces persons have good social sentiments. They are happy, peaceful, hospitable by nature. The danger of Pisces people is of falling into laziness, negligence, passivity, and indifference for life. Pisces people can even reach the lack of moral responsibility. The mind of Pisces people oscillates between rapid or fatal comprehension, laziness, and disdain for the most necessary things of life. Those are 2 extremes, and they just as soon fall into one extreme as they do into the other. The will of Pisces people is sometimes strong but inconsistent on other occasions. When Pisces people fall into indifference and extreme passivity, they allow themselves to be carried away by the current of the river of life. But when they see the seriousness of their conduct, they put their steel will into play, and they then radically change the entire course of their existence. Pisces people of a superior type are 100% Gnostic. They possess a will of unbreakable steel and a very elevated sense of moral responsibility. The superior type of Pisces produces great enlightened beings, masters, initiated kings, etc. The inferior type of Pisces has a marked tendency towards lust, alcoholism, gluttony, laziness, pride. Pisces people like journeys, but not all of them can travel. Pisces people have a great imagination and tremendous sensitivity. It is very difficult to comprehend Pisces people. Only Pisces people can comprehend Pisces people. What for run-of-the-mill people has great importance is worth nothing for Pisces people. But he is diplomatic. He adapts himself to people. He appears to agree with them. The most serious thing for the natives of Pisces is to have to define themselves in the conjugal matter, for almost always 2 basic, fundamental loves put them in a dead-end alley. The superior type of Pisces already transcends all these weaknesses and is chaste in an absolute manner. Usually, Pisces people customarily suffer a lot with the family in their first years. It is difficult to find a Pisces person who was happy with his family during his first years.
The very inferior type of women of Pisces fall into prostitution and alcoholism. The superior type of women of Pisces never fall in this manner. They are like a very delicate flower, like a beautiful lotus flower.